Welcome back to another episode of Game Decon. I'm back to continue my coverage of the video game Fallout New Vegas as created by Obsidian Entertainment and Bethesda Softworks. For those new to the channel, Game Decon analyzes the narratives of video games and evaluates them. If you missed my previous videos on this game, I will link the first video in the description below. There will be spoilers for Fallout New Vegas in this video. With introductions out of the way, let's continue. Our courier turns back north to explore the small community of Sloan. Along the way, Gabe comes upon a small shack called Gene Skydiving, where he finds another blue star cap before tangling with a few hostile powder gangers near an abandoned airplane. It seems the road to Sloan is a bit perilous, as we come across some powder gangers who recently killed a pair of traveling merchants. After being harassed by multiple convicts along the road, I decide to have Gabe investigate a nearby powder ganger camp. After ridding the area of the convicts, Gabe finds a letter. Apparently, the powder gangers have some divisions among their ranks, as their resources seem to be in jeopardy with the decline of travelers to rob. They speak of another group of convicts to the north, and some of the current gang seems to be considering joining this offshoot branch. Beneath an underpass along the way to Sloan, Gabe can discover another robed ghoul like the one found earlier in Good Springs Cave. Finally arriving in Sloan, we meet a miner named Chomps Lewis.
Hold up. There are death claws all over the damn place north of here. I'd turn back if I were you. If you want to get to New Vegas, you're better off heading east from Prim and then looping north. It's a heck of a lot safer. They moved into the quarry after the powder gangers came through and made off with most of our dynamite. We shut the quarry down while we waited for the NCR to get us some more blasting sticks, but now the death claws have shown up. The NCR's a no-show, and my men and I have got nothing to do but sit on our asses all day. It's damn frustrating. There are a bunch of escaped cons from down south. The NCR was using them to maintain the railways as part of their sentence. I don't know who screwed up, but the powder gangers are loose. It was one group that attacked us and took our entire supply of dynamite. We'd see them occasionally, but they didn't seem too keen on getting too close to the quarry. Not sure if it was the noise or all the workers. I can't believe that an entire pack moved into the quarry. I thought that kind of bad luck only happened in New Vegas. Okay. This is Sloan, a camp for us quarry workers. The actual quarry, Quarry Junction, is up the road north of here. The whole thing is an NCR operation. We make cement for the NCR using the limestone we dig out with dynamite and drag lines. Dirty work, but the pay's good. Wish we got paid in caps, though. Not a lot of merchants like taking NCR paper money. It all gets shipped by rail over towards Boulder City and Hoover Dam. The NCR is probably building fortifications with it all. It's a big machine which moves rocks around, piles at a time. It's pre-war tech, so you need to thump it once in a while to keep it running. Nope. The NCR has been trying to switch over to using paper money, just like in the pre-war days. Trouble is that the exchange rates ain't exactly fair. For example, $100 in NCR money is valued at roughly half that in caps around here. Seems like a rotten deal for us, but work is work. Sure. I've been there once, and I don't recommend it. It's just a way to burn through a month's pay in 5 minutes. I've seen a lot of folks come through here thinking they'll have the easy life once they get there. It never happens. If you insist on going north, don't be expecting a rescue when you get into trouble.
After speaking with Lewis, I have Gabe tend to the injured mole rat named Snuffles the miners keep as a pet. Lewis is grateful for the help. Before we continue on, I want to review some pertinent information Lewis told the courier. First, we now know why heading north from Sloan, despite it being the most direct route to New Vegas, is so dangerous. Deathclaws have invaded the quarry. Second, the powder gangers acquired most of their dynamite by robbing Sloan and the quarry. One thing I will point out is the unlikelihood of the powder gangers leaving any of the miners alive. although it is possible the miners were able to hide or flee when the convicts arrived. We simply don't have enough information. Third, the railways around the Mojave were in use, although we do not see them being used in-game. It appears some pre-war tech is quite operational, and the NCR has been using rail lines to transport cement to Boulder City and Hoover Dam. Finally, we have further evidence the NCR is indeed stretched thin. Despite being deprived of their needed resources from Quarry Junction, the NCR seems incapable of clearing the Death Claws, which is unsurprising considering how dangerous they are. However, remember that the NCR is also struggling to even handle the powder gangers. With the convicts controlling the southern area and the Deathclaws hunkering down in the northern quarry, Sloan is a veritable island the NCR cannot reach or assist at present. This last bit of information should not be a surprise. Many characters have already pointed out that the NCR is stretched thin and incapable of securing the roads. As we leave Sloan, I will be transparent about my next actions. I do have the radio shut off in-game for reasons. With that being the case, we cannot hear certain information that, say, might lead our courier to certain destinations if he would be able to hear them. Since we are close to Black Mountain, I'm going to suggest the highly plausible reality in which my courier is able to listen to Black Mountain radio and hear a conversation between a super mutant called Tabitha threatening a master mechanic named Raul Tejada, who is being kept prisoner. I do intend for my courier to rescue the mechanic, and since Gabe's experiences in Good Springs taught him that helping others in the wasteland may lead to becoming stronger himself, he has motivation and reason to try. Heading east from Sloan, Gabe dispatches far too many bark scorpions before stumbling upon a hidden valley nestled in the hills. A fenced-off area holds a number of old nuclear bunkers, although none of them seem to be Vault-Tec brand. A swirling dust storm also permeates this area. Gabe soon comes upon a large radioactive crater where a number of monstrosities called centaurs shamble. Eddie and Gabe put down most of them. In the crater, our courier can find 2 humans wearing power armor. One of them has a holotape with mission information from a faction called the Brotherhood of Steel. Passing beyond a gated perimeter, Gabe is quickly approached by a super mutant named Neil.
This is a dangerous place, human, especially for your kind. I suggest you turn back. There's nothing good waiting for you further on. You must have heard her radio broadcasts. Though why a human would follow her invitation here is beyond me, unless you didn't listen very closely. The voice on the radio belongs to Tabitha, the supreme commander of Black Mountain, or as she calls it, the state of Utopia. She took control of this place almost 2 years ago. The super mutants here do whatever she says, and she says humans are to be killed on sight. Help would improve the odds. Help might just make the difference. All right, if you're good enough at what you do to meet me in the village up near the peak, we can talk further. I'll have a plan by the time I see you, if I see you. Good luck. It's going to be a lot harder for you to get up there than it will be for me.
Through this dialogue with Neil, we learn that a super mutant named Tabitha has taken control of the Black Mountain mutants and established what she calls the state of Utopia. She is aggressive toward all humans, though this view is clearly not shared by Neil, who appears to be the only outlier among the Black Mountain mutants. Why he has stuck around and why he chooses to warn the courier is unknown, but he also seems willing to work with a human to depose Tabitha. Gabe and Eddie fight their way up the mountain, although in the darkness of the night it is relatively simple to avoid the super mutant patrols. In the early morning light, we can also get our first decent look at New Vegas itself from atop the mountain. It indeed looks like a glowing city of gold in the distance, though a number of gray, decrepit structures rise up all around it. The New Vegas Strip itself is confined compared to the barren and lifeless ruins around the casinos. Climbing further up the mountain, we sneak through increasingly irradiated ruins and craters. It appears the mountain was a target site for nuclear strikes during the Great War. We soon find Neil just down the road from the mountain peak.
A pleasant surprise to see you made it. I'm ready to get started if you are. Here's the plan. The gate to Tabitha's compound is guarded by several Nightkin, all of them using devices that make them invisible. I'm going to draw them away from the gate by telling them I spotted an intruder in the village. Then you slip in. Good luck. We're going to need it.
Despite Neil's plan, our courier unfortunately is unable to avoid detection by the Nightkin, and Eddie and Gabe are forced to defeat them. Gabe approaches the mountain peak and quickly defeats a final super mutant sporting a missile launcher named Annabelle. That's the launcher's name, not the mutant's. Heading into a nearby storage building, Gabe can find a still and lifeless robot splayed out on a table. With some skill and science, Gabe can bring the robot back to life.
Hello. Could you please direct me to Mistress Tabitha? Thank you very much. My internal clock says it's been 6 years, 52 days, 40 minutes, and 13 seconds since I last spoke to her. I hope she hasn't gotten lonely.
Rhonda? Is that you?
It is, Mistress Tabitha. How I've missed you so. This stranger here fixed me up right as rain. Is he a friend of yours?
I don't know how to thank you for bringing Rhonda back to me, stranger. Here, take this. I won't be needing it anymore. I don't know. It's been so long since I lost Rhonda that I'm not sure.
Mistress Tabitha, we should be heading off. Our journey has been much delayed, but we can catch up if we hurry. Come along now.
Yes, Rhonda.
With that, Gabe ends Tabitha's 2-year control of Black Mountain, allowing the crazed Tabitha and her robot friend Rhonda to continue on a journey to an unknown destination. Stepping into the prison building, the courier can find a number of entries on a computer terminal. There is no known author to the texts, but we can infer from the logs that they were made by the master mechanic Raul Tejada. The first entry tells how Tabitha ordered Raul to start these logs, and that he fixed some terminals in the intact buildings of Black Mountain. The second entry talks about the mutants raiding a caravan. Raul considered disabling the radio tower after doing maintenance on it, but he also realized Tabitha would have him killed for doing so. The third entry tells of how a mutant approached Raul to fix a car, and the mechanic told him he didn't know how. The mutant, whom Raul called Cuddles, seemed to become angry to the point of wanting to kill the mechanic. In the fourth entry, Raul stated that he attempted to escape, but was caught and beaten unconscious. Tabitha also had Raul locked up any time he wasn't being useful. The fifth entry tells of the death of Cuddles. After Raul still couldn't fix the car, Cuddles dragged the mechanic outside, but the mutant was swiftly killed by Tabitha. Raul seemed relieved that the car-obsessed mutant was gone. In the last entry, Raul explains that Tabitha forced him to put more security on his own cell door using the computers he fixed up. His cell door requires a passcode, which he writes down in this final entry. He also seems to think no one will read these entries, since he is so flagrant and bold about sharing the code in plain view. Using the code on the nearby terminal, we find a ghoul wearing the clothes of a mechanic sitting in the next room.
Took you long enough, so can I go now? Sorry. I assumed the only reason you'd fight past a horde of super mutants and pick the lock on my cell is if you heard my cry for help on the radio. But maybe you're just sightseeing. So since the door's open and all, can I go now? Name's Raul. Raul Alfonso Tejada. I'm the mechanic around here. Probably because it used to be Miguel's. Whoever he was. How about if you let me go, huh, boss? No. No, boss. I'm a prisoner of the crazy super mutant with the wig and the glasses. I was kind of hoping you were here to set me free. But maybe I'm not a pretty enough damsel for that, huh? Alrighty then. I'll just head out, alone, by myself, into the dangerous waste. Anything's better than staying here. Let's go.
I'll review more about Raul later. I have Gabe, Eddie, and Raul explore the radio building on Black Mountain. There are a few terminals inside which expand upon past events. The first terminal shows events that happened just prior to the Great War, with tensions rising between the United States and China before the inevitable nuclear Armageddon. The staff of the radio tower succumbed to radiation, but years later, someone named Marcus rediscovered Black Mountain. Marcus believed Black Mountain could be a home for his group, which is likely a reference to the super mutants capable of living on the irradiated slopes. Marcos also appears to have some degree of empathy for those who perished on the mountain hundreds of years prior. The second terminal entry seemed to have been written by Tabitha, since the writer states that she missed Rhonda. The leader of the community, Marcus, persuaded Tabitha to keep a journal and to explore the radio building, but she seems unconvinced. In the very next entry, though, Tabitha seems much more enthused about the radio station found in the building. She also says none of the super mutants in Black Mountain were able to fix Rhonda. A third entry shows that the mutants were able to make the radio station operational, although Tabitha is dismissive of why Marcus wants to use it. Tabitha also mentions that she is speaking to Rhonda, which we know is impossible given the timeline of events. Rhonda told us previously that it had not spoken to Tabitha in over 6 years, while Neil claims Tabitha had taken over Black Mountain 2 years ago. The first entry on this terminal started with Rhonda already being deactivated, which means Tabitha is crazy, although this trait, we will see, is shared by all of the Nightkin specifically. The fourth entry tells of Tabitha's perspective of infighting between the mutants. Marcus attempts to keep control and to have the factions work together, but Tabitha disagrees, saying that Rhonda believes her faction is better off without Marcus's. The fifth log shows that Marcus's group did depart Black Mountain. Tabitha is excited to run her radio broadcast with the still inoperative Rhonda, and Tabitha seems to not understand why Marcus didn't want her to run the show with Rhonda, although the reason why is clear to us, since Rhonda had been inoperable for at least 4 years and Tabitha still acted as she were there. The sixth entry shares that Tabitha forced Raoul to overhaul security on her door, though she also says in the log where she hid the key to her radio station. The last entry, though, is a bit confusing, since Tabitha is talking about a ghoul entering the camp, and she hopes he can fix Rhonda. This last detail does contradict the previous log in which Raoul was already working on the radio station's door, but I am unsure if this is an oversight on the side of the writers or if this detail is further evidence of Tabitha's insanity and weak mental state. We find surprisingly little in Tabitha's radio room besides a note about repairs being needed. Reading the Brotherhood of Steel holotape, we can identify the two men from the crater we visited previously as Paladins Hughes and Fairbanks. The Paladins were sent north to meet with the mutants in order to acquire components. The writer of the orders seemed to believe the super mutants were reasonable, which shows that the writer may have been acting on outdated information, since we know how unreasonable Tabitha and her mutants are. The orders are signed by someone named McNamara. We're going to review some of the characters from this section, as well as a few of the factions that were pertinent. I'm going to start with Chomps Lewis. He is a miner in Sloan. He's frustrated by the NCR. He dislikes being paid in NCR money. He has visited New Vegas before. He doesn't like New Vegas, though, and is thankful that Snuffles is okay once our courier heals the mole rat. I don't have any problem with Chomps Lewis. He seems pretty believable. I mean, he obviously wants to get back to work. He seems to be frustrated with the currency rate between caps and NCR money, which I think is all rather reasonable as a character. We do know more about Chomps Lewis, so this sort of score I gave him is really kind of tentative because there are some things that we can know about him later when we start investigating the Great Khans a little bit, but we'll get to that at a later time. Moving on along, we're going to go talk about the people that, or not the people, the super mutants and the robot that we meet on Black Mountain. And also Marcus, another super mutant that we haven't met yet, but he does have a past here, and I do want to cover it as well. Starting off, we have Neil. He warns the courier about Black Mountain. He dislikes Tabitha. He's willing to work with the courier to stop Tabitha. He isn't hostile to humans and prefers subterfuge and distractions. This might be updated at some point in the event that we ever learn anything more about Neil. But I gave him a 7 overall, mainly because I don't really understand why he's not hostile to humans, considering he stayed around at Black Mountain. Maybe he feels responsible or something for his group's problems and issues against the rest of the Mojave, but we really don't know that. He doesn't say anything about, I have to do this because Tabitha's crazy or whatever. I mean, we know he doesn't like her, but it's just like, why are you the only one still here? And I feel like, especially knowing Tabitha, as quickly as she kills some of the other mutants and the way she has total control over them, it seems very unlikely that she would allow him to just very blatantly go against whatever she wants to do and even go against her and try to dethrone her. I don't think she would be willing to let Neil do that. Especially since she's been in control in 2 years. I doubt he's been here this entire time just making problems for her when she seems to be very capable of making quick decisions to solve problems. That's just a little bit unbelievable to me. Rhonda, actually Tabitha took over Black Mountain 2 years ago, sends radio station broadcasts, um, which are quite interesting and humorous, which I wish we could listen to. Um, she formed the state of Utopia. Um, she's hostile to humans. She's holding Raul Tejada hostage. Just wanted Rhonda to be reactivated. She is on an unknown journey with Rhonda. She's quick to anger and she threatens people. She deals out swift punishments, as I talked about. She is insane, schizophrenic. I think all the Nightkin are schizophrenic. She likes music and radio specifically. Rhonda, that's the robot. Rhonda is a Mr. Handy style robot. I have to stop myself from saying she because it's a robot. Tabitha's um, Rhonda is Tabitha's companion. It was deactivated for 6 years before our courier got his hands on it. Rhonda has some control over Tabitha to an extent and directs Tabitha to continue the journey. I say some control, really, it's like total control over Tabitha. Um, I mean, we understand and can see that Tabitha has some sort of dual personality sort of thing, schizophrenia, which is causing her to think Rhonda's still there. And Rhonda has her own personality inside Tabitha, even though Rhonda is a robot also. Um, so, um, I also gave Rhonda a 7, mainly because I do not really. I get why Tabitha is able to be controlled by Rhonda so easily because Rhonda is part of Tabitha's psyche almost to an extent, but also is not at the same time. Um, Mainly, the reason I gave Rhonda a 7 is because I don't really understand her motivations or its motivations for why it's doing what it's doing. Um, I mean, yes, they want to go on a journey. I don't know what that journey is. They don't talk about it. Um, I don't know why they continue to do so. I mean, Rhonda, as a completely we would consider a reasonable and logical robot, can see that Tabitha is not in her right mind. So why it's doing what it's doing is not really expanded upon. Basically, I guess I'm saying I don't have enough background to reconcile why Rhonda is doing what it wants to do with Tabitha. Um, Last in Black Mountain is Marcus. I did not give him a score because we will meet Marcus later on in the game and learn a lot more about him there. He rediscovered Black Mountain. He has empathy for the humans that died there during the Great War. He is a leader. He tried to help Tabitha. He attempted to unify the mutants at Black Mountain, but then ended up leaving Black Mountain with other mutants whenever their differences could not be reconciled. Moving on along, I want to go talk about some of the factions, I believe, because I think no, I don't. I want to go talk about our companion, Raul. We don't know his full name yet. I'm just gonna call him Raul Tejada. Um, Even though I have his middle name posted there. He is a master mechanic. He is Tabitha's prisoner. He is snarky. He is a ghoul. He's eager to leave Black Mountain. He refers to the courier as boss and has an isolated shack in the Mojave. Um, that's basically all there is about Raoul. I'm going to save all of my evaluations about characters, the companions rather, so far, um, toward the end of the video series because that's when their stories end, pretty much. Unless I'm playing on hardcore mode and they die at some point, which I'm not. So, um, Raul, that's him in a nutshell. We'll learn more about him later on in this video. Going on to the factions, let's talk about the NCR. We learned a few things about them. They control Sloan and Quarry Junction. Um, why they use the resources from the quarry in Boulder City and the dam, so they're making great use out of that. And we also know the NCR money is not worth as much as Cap's. Um, So yeah, and a lot of the other things that we've learned about the NCR in this video are things we already knew, and they were just simply rehashed and strengthened. I mean, we know that they're having problems. They're supposed to be protecting the region from dangers, but they also seem to be unable to keep travel safe. So it's like what they want to do is not what they're able to do because we know that they are potentially understaffed and under what is the word? They're just spread too thin. Some of the people have said that, and we know that many of the soldiers are already disheartened and frustrated by what's going on in the NCR. So all this stuff checks out. I don't have any problems with how the NCR has been characterized so far. All right. Powder gangers, we only really learn one thing about them as far as where they got their dynamite stores from. They got that from Sloan in the quarry itself. That was more so told to us by Chomps Lewis. And last is the Brotherhood of Steel, which I finally get to talk about. Everyone likes the Brotherhood of Steel, or maybe they don't really like it, but they at least know about it because that's like the Fallout main faction that everyone gets introduced to at some point. The first thing that we've learned so far about them is that they had dealings with mutants of Black Mountain. I could say that where they're located is somewhere south of Black Mountain because of what was told in the um oh gosh, what is it called? Just the mission thing that McNamara wrote for the Paladins. We can get some general geographic information about where they might be located, but it's uh, just saying that something is north of something is extremely broad. It could be literally anywhere south. I know where it is. A lot of you who are watching the video probably know where the Brotherhood of Steel safe house is, but um yeah, I mean, I'm not going to include that there. All we really know for sure is that they had dealings with the mutants of Black Mountain, which may end up being kind of unusual as we find out about this Brotherhood of Steel chapter in the Mojave. Returning to Nipton, we happen upon a pair of skeletons in front of a long-destroyed house. Reference to New Hope? Most likely. Anyway, we leave Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru behind, and I have Gabe lead Raoul and Eddie into the hills east of town. The road just east of Nipton is a prime ambush spot for bandits, so it's much simpler to avoid the area and make a short detour. The hills have some dangers, namely bark scorpions and a few raiders belonging to the Viper gang. To the east, we find a windmill overlooking a crumbling road. Beyond that, we stumble upon Wolfhorn Ranch, an abandoned farm just east of Nipton. There's little else here besides a lone grave, a near-empty shack, and a few other nondescript buildings. There is some lore to this location, but nothing I could share from in-game sources. Also, if you want to hear my ludicrous theory about how Courage the Cowardly Dog is set in the Fallout universe, let me know in the comments. Crossing a bridge, we find a caravan headed east along the interstate. A band of legionnaires lies in wait for this caravan. A nearby billboard has a few phrases on it, namely, "Let it all end," followed by "Quit your whining." I don't have much to say about the second phrase, although I will point out that the first is the same phrase that was located at the Lone Wolf radio trailer near Good Springs. Though I choose to not have Gabe intervene immediately as the Legionnaires ambush the merchants, I do have him finish off the one survivor of the Legion ambush, which leaves my courier shunned by Caesar's Legion. I do not particularly like how killing one Legionnaire, far from the eyes of any potential witnesses, gives Gabe an immediate bad standing with the Legion, but then again, this is a game mechanic, and I'm about to give the Legion more reasons to dislike my courier anyway. I also find a third robed ghoul nearby.
Prim wimped out and accepted NCR rule. Some people do anything to feel safe.
Apparently, some people in the Mojave viewed towns accepting NCR rule as a weakness. If you recall from the last episode, when the Legion ambushed the town of Nipton, they took some slaves from the town. A powder ganger named Boxcars, one of the two survivors of Nipton, told Gabe where the enslaved townsfolk were being taken. I have my courier head east from the billboard from before, finding a camp of legionaries. After a quick gunfight, we find two powder gangers tied up in the camp. I can free them to satisfy the mission to save the Nipton survivors from slavery, though at the cost of further alienating my courier from the Legion's graces, although, again, I leave no survivors. Surprisingly, saving these powder gangers does not help the courier's reputation with the powder gangers faction, which I do feel is an oversight. Heading north along the interstate, we see a billboard advertising Rita's Cafe. Behind the billboard are 3 Viper gang members who thought trying to ambush Gabe, Raul, and Eddie was a good idea. Following the road, we stumble across Ranger Station Charlie, which appears to be a repurposed trailer park. Inside the main building, Gabe speaks with Officer Stepanek.
McCarran doesn't like it when civilians wander into military outposts, so if you're here on business, better make it quick. The radio signal out here can be pretty spotty because of all the hills. Sometimes our scheduled updates don't go through. When it happens enough times, they send someone over to check up on us. Lately, we've been getting extra medical supplies for some reason. I'm in no rush to give the supplies back, either. Ranger Station Charlie. We're responsible for keeping the highway up through Novac civilized. I shouldn't have said anything in the first place, and I'd rather not get you into the habit of crossing the NCR. All quiet at the moment. Ranger Beaumont is in charge here, but he's off leading a patrol. We're part scout, part commando, part sheriff. The training is brutal, and I'd say 8 out of 10 recruits washes out before the end. Before you get your ranger badge, you've got to prove you can be quieter than a shadow, and more ferocious than a deathclaw. Couple dozen, I'd say. Most of them posted at stations like this one. We either man the station or patrol the immediate area. The Rangers mostly draw from the basic NCR army. A trooper who shows exceptional skill at fighting and scouting can be nominated for the training. Sure. See you around.
While I do understand that Rangers are meant to be used for reconnaissance, Stepanek also seems to suggest that the Rangers are highly skilled in combat operations. It seems a bit odd that the NCR would post these highly skilled Rangers in remote outposts when there is a wide-ranging conflict with the Legion and other criminal factions across the Mojave, but perhaps the reasoning behind this decision will be elaborated on later. Continuing along the road, we finally come to the town of Novac, though we can spot its iconic dinosaur statue from some distance away. Novac is a sizable community, perhaps a bit bigger than Goodsprings, and we will soon get to know its members. However, standing just outside the main building in town, Gabe is reunited with a familiar face.
Well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit if it ain't my old friend from Goodsprings. Don't rightly know. I just got the notion to make my way to New Vegas. Reckon I'll find out when I get there. Novac? Nice enough place, I suppose, but between you and me, when I rolled into town, my skin started to itch. Watch yourself. Likewise, friend, likewise. Is there anything old Vic can do you for? No, don't believe I did. But you might ask around. The Novac folk usually see anyone traveling this way. Be seeing you.
Again, I really wish we could bring up the information we learned in Prim regarding Victor's role in hiring the Mojave Express to deliver packages to New Vegas. The fact that Victor arrives in Novac ahead of the courier is unsettling, since the implication is that the courier is either being watched or followed across the Mojave. While our courier can eventually confront Victor about why the two keep running into each other, this first instance should be ringing enough alarm bells for a proper confrontation to happen here. Stepping into the lobby of the Dino Delight Motel, Gabe can meet the town leader, Jeannie Mae Crawford.
Well, welcome to you. You look tired from the road. Why don't you relax a spell? Let this fine town take care of you. Oh, what am I doing? I got to thinking about making a good impression and plain forgot to tell you my name. I'm Jeannie Mae. I take care of folks here at the motel, long as they aren't troublemakers. We're in a little desert oasis, name of Novac. This is the Dino Delight Motel, and it's mine. Well, there's Dinky, the town mascot. He's a sight. You probably already saw him when you came in, but you can go up inside, too. Up the road a ways to the west, there's REPCONN. That's the old rocket factory. There's been some sinister characters out there lately, so you may want to stay clear. Other than that, nothing to do but take it easy and enjoy good company. Well, up north a ways, you'll see a big tower. That's Helios 1. Used to be a power plant in its day. And there's a town just east of here called Nelson. Used to be such a quaint little place until those slavers took it over. But we got our wonderful snipers keeping an eye in that direction, and so far, the slavers have left us alone. I just know what I've heard. There's supposed to be some ghouls that went in a while back. Ever so often, there'll be a commotion from that direction, explosions and such. Watch out for strangers. I hope you're finding everything to your liking. Go see Cliff Briscoe at the Dino Bite gift shop, and tell him I sent you. I think he gets lonely standing around in that dino belly all day. He'll be glad for the company. Well, he might have been wearing a fancy outfit, but he wasn't any kind of gentleman to me. Had his nose stuck so high in the air you couldn't see it above the clouds. City folk. They always think they deserve better than what they got. Those hoodlums he was with seemed to know Manny for some reason. He's our daytime sniper, up in the dinosaur's mouth. Well, let's see. Dusty McBride's been losing some Brahmin, but that's probably the heat more than anything. Honestly, it's been real quiet. Ranger Andy's still hurt, but we got these two gentlemen snipers watching the road day and night, keeping the trash out of Novac. They've been a blessing. Well, I think that's a fine idea. I'll give you a good flat rate, and you can stay as long as you like. At least until the busy season comes. Sound good? I'm glad you can stay with us. Your room will be the one upstairs, closest to the lobby side. Here's your key. Let me know if there's anything I can do to make your stay better for you. Watch out for strangers.
Jeannie May gives us a few good leads not only on the courier's quarry, but also on goings-on in the town. Making our way into the fake dinosaur, we meet Cliff Briscoe, who Jeannie May told us runs the gift shop.
Welcome to the Dino Bite gift shop. My name's Cliff. If you're here for the T-Rex figurines, you're just in time. There's still a few left. Bless her. Seems like every traveler I get in here tells me the same thing. They see the sign and think, gift shop? That's just too good to be true. But Jeannie May always points them back in my direction. Well, a friend of Jeannie's is a friend of mine, and my friends get a discount at my store. Well, there's T-Rex figurines, of course. That's our bread and butter. We also have an assortment of the REPCONN factory souvenirs, rockets, things of that nature. Guns? Well, yeah, I guess I might have a few. Darn it, no one ever buys the T-Rexes.
More on Cliff later. In the mouth of the dinosaur, we can meet the daytime sniper of Novac, Manny Vargas.
What's going on, man? I'm Manny. I'm on security detail here. You see a rifle barrel sticking out of the dinosaur's mouth, you got a 50-50 shot it's me. Otherwise, it's Boone. Boone's a sniper, same as me. Used to spot for him when we were enlisted with the NCR. After we got out, I talked him into settling down here. So, here we are. I'd introduce you, but, we're not so friendly right now. Me and his wife, we didn't see eye to eye on some things. We had some pretty big arguments. One day, she turns up missing, and he hasn't said a word to me since. Man, you name it. See, I grew up in North Vegas. Me and my cousins, we were some bad seeds. Got in with a gang, I loved it. Then something happened, and I couldn't handle it anymore. So, I enlisted, earned my future, brought down my best friend to share that future with me. And here was this woman, who was too good for it, trying to take him away. So yeah, I didn't see eye to eye with the bitch. Were they tough? I was in the cons, man. It doesn't get any badder. Oh, it was great. I wouldn't trade it. Something about that lifestyle, the discipline, seeing new places, making people safe. What's not to like? Well, I just felt like it was time, you know? Wanted to have a home. Plus, I was up at Camp Golf when Bitter Springs went down. I faked like I was sick to get out of going because I knew some of the people there. But when everybody came back, nobody would tell me what happened, and people would call us murderers sometimes when we showed up to secure towns. I still don't know exactly. Just that a lot of people died who didn't want to be a part of the fighting at all. I don't blame anybody for it. There's so much chaos when you're fighting. You're lucky not to shoot your own guys. But it did take something out of it for me. It just wasn't the same. So when it came time to re-enlist, I just took my papers and walked. You name it. Anything that comes within 1,000 yards that looks like trouble. Lately we've been getting ghouls, coming from the road to REPCONN out to the west. Quite a few last couple days. The big threat is the Legion coming from the east. If they decide to attack with a full force, they'll run us over. But so far we've been lucky. Sure I know him. What do you want with him? You talking about that chip? Man, I don't think he's giving it up. Well listen, I can definitely help you find him, but I've got problems of my own. Maybe we can do a trade. You need my help. There's something I need too. Yeah, everybody depends on you, you know? But they don't ask you about how you feel, what you worry about. There's something I like about you. You just seem really understanding. I was gonna ask you for a favor, but I'll just tell you what you want to know. The guy you're looking for, Benny, he was traveling with some members from my old gang. They were going to Boulder City. No clue. I know Benny hadn't paid up yet. Maybe that was where they were supposed to get square. It's straight up Route 93 from here. Just keep following the road north. Glad I could help. Hey, I know you've got no reason to help me out now, but you seem really nice. Could I at least tell you about the problem we've got here? See? I was right about you. Novac, it's home for me now. I want that to be for good. I like it here, and I've left too many homes behind. But the only resource we got here is junk. Without that, people wouldn't have anything to trade. They'd all have to leave. We get most of it up the road from the old rocket test site, but a bunch of ghouls showed up one day and took it over. We can't get in there now. I would, but I've got to watch the road. Caesar's Legion has been taking territory just east of here. They took Nelson. If we let our guard down, they might attack. All it takes for the Legion is for them to sense weakness. Well, they gotta go, or this'll be a ghost town before long. Doesn't matter to me what you do. As long as the ghouls are out of there, that's good enough for me. It'd mean a lot to me. Yeah, see ya.
We learn a wealth of information about Manny and other characters along the way, but most importantly, we now know the name of the man in the checkered suit. And thank goodness, since I'm tired of using that wordy moniker. His name is Benny, and we learn he passed through Novac on his way to Boulder City. I will cover all of Manny's traits later, but I will point out he is the second male character who likes men in Fallout New Vegas. I also like how this attraction becomes highlighted in the tension between himself, Boone, and Boone's wife. Though he doesn't say it outright, Manny almost certainly wanted to settle down in Novac with Boone, although Boone gets married before moving to Novac, likely dashing the hopes Manny might have had. This disappointment and frustration likely only increased when Boone's wife was less than happy about living in Novac, and their fights only shortened the friendship between Boone and Manny. Manny also shares that Boone's wife recently went missing, and that his fellow sniper has not spoken to him since. Manny seems happy the wife is gone and likely realizes he did nothing to help her disposition in Novac. Surprisingly, the town's leader, Jeannie May, does not mention the disappearance of Boone's wife, which is odd considering that she seems to be a bit of a busybody. While we do have our new destination, Boulder City, Gabe would still be willing to aid the people of Novac with their ghoul problem. I don't want to address why he is willing to help now, but will do so at the end of the video. I bring Gabe to the tiny Brahmin ranch on the outskirts of Novac, run by Dusty McBride and his wife, Alice.
Hey there. In from out of town, ain't you? Name's Dusty. Oh, I tend to my ranch. That's about it. Alice will tell you, I don't get out a whole lot. Losing don't describe it. It's a massacre. A few more days and there won't be nothing left to lose. Every night around midnight, Alice and I wake up to some crazy hollering and gunshots. You'd think the world was ending all over again. But it's just one animal each night. They don't take it or carve it up or nothing. Just leave it there, all full of holes. We'd be grateful, especially if you find them before they get my whole stock. But don't go getting yourself killed over it. Alice and I'll find a way to make do. Always have. Beg your pardon, mister, but them two-headed beeves ain't worth getting shot over. Not to mention what would happen if half of what Novac says is true. Best we can hope is that whoever's doing this will move on or get tired of it. I just hope it happens while we still got animals left. Whoever it is, I don't think they're from around town. Seems like they've taken to shooting from the west side. So long.
Look who's here.
What brings you here?
Well, it's the strangest thing. Last time it happened, I could swear I heard someone cry out for help. Sounded like a big fella. But when we finally got up the gumption to go look outside, all we found was our cattle. And I know what they sound like when they get upset. I can't imagine what went on. Dusty can probably tell you more about it. Oh, we keep to ourselves for the most part. Try not to pry. I think Jeannie May gets bothered that we aren't more sociable. But it's just our way. Ain't that we don't appreciate what she's done, managing this town like she has, but I worry she feels that way anyhow. Not that there ain't others who pry around here. That Novac was skulking around our yard last week. I thought he was our cow killer. Was about to lash him with our bullwhip till I saw who it was. He's harmless, though. Part of me wishes I could see things like he sees them, all full of mystery. I'm not sure who started it. Wasn't a very nice name, but he took to calling himself by it, so we all had to. I don't even remember what his real name is. Anyway, I think it comes from that expression that people say when you're crazy, that not all of your dogs are barking. Poor Novac. Oh, well, I'm Alice, and you've already met my beau, Dusty. He's sweet, ain't he? I don't care what my mama said. I know how to pick 'em. We set up this ranch years back when Novac was just getting settled. But now, with all the danger on I-15, folks are starting to come through here from all over. Novac might just be the next Nevada boomtown. Nice of you to visit.
I'll discuss these characters' traits later toward the end of the video. For now, we have other errands to run, and we have to wait for the sun to go down for our mysterious cattle killer to show. On the north side of town, we meet Novac, the crazed man Alice McBride spoke of.
Who sent you? I ain't talking. They tried to get me to talk before, but I didn't say nothing. And I don't aim to now, by gum. Confound it, Novac, you done it again. You let on that you know things. Now they'll never let you be. All right, stranger, you got me. What do you want to know? There's been things of a disturbing nature going on at the McBride Corral. Seems every night one of their herd meets a most unnatural death. And always there's holes all over the body. Work of the chupacabra, the livestock vampire, says Novac. But they don't pay no mind. Too many holes, they say, and there's bullets in them. Well, says Novac, we got a chupacabra with an automatic weapon. And that's when they get real quiet, because now they see the predicament we're in. I come face to face with the chupacabra himself one night, whilst I was investigating whether this gecko was hiding his treasure from me. He was the meanest, ugliest chupacabra you could imagine. Had 2 heads and fangs down to the ground. Best I could tell anyways, since when he come up to me, he was invisible. Had himself a blunderbuss, what would rotate and shoot bullets real fast out of a backpack. Never seen nothing like it. Walked right past me having an argument with somebody. But I only saw one chupacabra, so I guess the other fella had to be invisible too, only more invisible than the other one. Folks will tell you that they seen ghouls up near the rocket factory. Sensationalist hooey, cooked up by superstitious yokels, seeing phantoms of their own imagining. Ghosts. Commie ghosts who don't know they're dead, hoping to steal our rockets so they can fly up and paint the moon pink and draw a Lenin face on it. I seen one of them disappear and reappear before my very eyes. Although, being a scientist, I have to admit I might have just blinked for longer than usual, what with the shock of seeing a commie ghost and so forth. 'Cause they know I ain't just barking here. What I say has got bite, 'cause it's the truth. Them quack doctors can say what they want about all the rat scorpion stings that done pierced my skull, and I know what I seen. If anyone asks, we never spoke.
Despite how absolutely crazy Nobark is, the man does know kernels of truth and will prove to be a valuable source of information in this town. I also enjoy his character mainly because you never know exactly what will come out of his mouth, but if I were to meet him in person, he'd be one of those people you just try to not make eye contact with as they give you crazy eyes from across the street. I decided to have Gabe visit Andy, the ranger that Jeannie May said was injured.
We haven't met yet. You must be new in town. I'm Andy. Right now, a whole lot of sitting on my keister and counting cracks in the ceiling. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. On better days, I help keep the peace. Boone and Vargas watch the road. I watch the town. Tell myself I'm doing some good. Was with them. That was back when my arm and leg used to work better. I still like to pretend I'm a ranger, though. I'll check in with the guys up at the station pretty regular on the ham radio. Sometimes they stop by, tell me they're paying their respects, the smug bastards. They haven't been responding to me last couple days. I guess they got tired of hearing me talk, but it still got me a little worried. Hell, listen to me talk, like some damn mother hen. No, they're gonna think I'm having trouble letting go. They're good soldiers. I don't give them enough credit. They're the NCR's finest, a one-man platoon, each of them. You got a job where even thinking about it would scare a man senseless? That's when you bring in the Rangers. And if you see a squad of veterans, guys who are in their black armor, well, you won't find a more beautiful sight. Yeah, twice. Actually, the first time, it was more like half my body. Knocked me out of the Rangers. This time, it's mostly just reminded me how useless I've gotten. A few years back, we get a tip that some Legion slavers were holed up in this burnt-out house a few clicks from where we were stationed. We get there and it's deserted. No sign anyone's been there. I mean, nothing. As we're leaving, I hear something behind me. I turn around and there's this kid, just skin and bone, and he's looking up at us and he's scared half to death. Been hiding in a closet. I go to grab him out of there and I notice he's holding something in his hand. Something metal. He shuts himself back in the closet and that's when I see the grenade he's left by my feet. They do it a lot, the Legion, using kids. They know we'll hesitate. Anyway, that was the first time. Second time, I fell down those stairs in front of the motel, just in case I got to thinking I'd put it all behind me. People don't exactly line up to find out what's in my head. Can't remember the last time someone suggested I knew something worth knowing. You know, maybe there's something I can do for you. Since you've gone to all the trouble of flattering a crippled old soldier, there's a move we have in the Rangers for knocking an opponent off his feet. Saved my butt a bunch of times, maybe it will for you too. Let me show you how it's done. The hang of that takedown, I had trouble learning it at first too. Hey, wait a sec. I know what I said, but if you find yourself by Ranger Station Charlie, let me know what you find. I'd be interested.
Before Gabe can get too far from Andy's bungalow, he's approached by Raoul.
Hey, boss. Can I ask you something? What do you think of guys like Ranger Andy? I mean guys who have a world of experience doing what they do, but have to give it up because they're getting old and slow or too injured. Yeah, I suppose you could still teach. Take a less active role in the world. That's not so bad. Would it surprise you to know that I used to be a gunslinging adventurer? I grew up in a place called Hidalgo Ranch, just outside Mexico City. It wasn't much, just a bit of a farm, with a house for 3 generations of Tejadas. I wasn't the best behaved kid. I was quick with my hands, with a pistol or a wrench. And I wasn't afraid to get into fights over it. I never killed anybody, but I had my share of run-ins with the police. Mostly my family kept me in line. This was before the war. We were far enough away from Mexico City when the bombs fell that we missed the worst of it. But things got bad quick. Just a few days after Mexico City was vaporized, refugees started pouring down the road to our ranch. We helped who we could, but there were so many. Eventually, my father started turning people away before we ran out of food. Things got violent. My father and I got our guns, and we drove them off. About 24 men came back in the night after we'd gone to sleep. They set fire to the ranch house and barred the doors from the outside. My whole family was trapped inside. I smelt the smoke, and I got myself and my little sister Rafaela out through a window. But everyone else, my parents, my grandmother, my 2 brothers, and 2 of my sisters, all died. Rafaela and I ran. We were pursued by some of the men who attacked our home, but I was always a good shot. The ones who came after us, I killed. The rest, I left be. I had to take care of Rafaela, not throw my life away on revenge. I know that, boss. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm just getting sentimental in my old age. Anyways, forget it. Just wanted that off my chest. What can I do for you, boss? Sure, boss. What do you want to know? I'm starting to think you haven't been paying attention, boss. Raul Alfonso Tejada, former gunslinger and sole survivor of Hidalgo Ranch, at your service. I'm an open book, boss. Granted, the book's in Spanish and some of the pages have fallen out, but I'm an open book. I'm not much use besides being a portable encyclopedia, really. I guess you could use me as a pack Brahmin, but my knees aren't so good anymore. That's nice of you to say, boss. But I'm an old man. Not much use to anybody anymore. Time was. I was a pretty good shot with a pistol. I guess I'm still half decent. These old bones aren't much use in hand-to-hand fighting, though. I can also do maintenance work on your stuff. I don't have the supplies for a real repair job, but I can keep your gear working longer. Yeah, maybe you can introduce them to me, if we find them, because I've never met one. Anything to hold your attention, boss. Questions, boss? You mean you don't know everything there is to know already? Just how old do you think I am, boss? Because I can pretty much guarantee I'm older than that. Let me tell you a story from before the Great War. Everybody knew Robert House. He was a genius, a superstar. Founded Robco at 22. Dated Hollywood starlets, the works. They say he saved Las Vegas. I was in Mexico City when the bombs dropped. Even from there, we could see House's defensive rockets shooting down the incoming missiles. Everybody assumed he died in the war. Maybe he did. But his robots are still out there roaming the waste. And now, a Mr. House rules New Vegas. I remember there were some weird stories about him, especially near the end. There was a tell-all in El Periódico de las Arboridas by a starlet House dated. She said they never, Now don't make me spell it out, boss. Anyway, she said all he wanted to do was scan her brain and make her dress up in different outfits. It was quite the scandal, at least in the Latin American tabloid journalism market. Maybe not. Maybe the new guy is just a clever raider chief with knowledge of history. Maybe he just left instructions for his robots to carry out in his name. Or maybe Robert House uploaded his brain pattern into a computer and rules to this day a godless, soulless machine god. Maybe the whole thing's a crazy coincidence. Who knows? You're a veritable geyser of curiosity, boss. Sure, boss. I saw lots of guys like that while I was held prisoner by an insane super mutant in an isolated mountain fortress. Can you narrow it down? Just a little bit, boss. Nah, I haven't seen him. Sounds like a city slicker, though. Might try looking on the strip. They're all right, I suppose. Had a bit of tough going there at the beginning. You know their first town was nearly wiped out by raiders. Anyway, they got their good points and their bad. Just like a lot of the old governments from before the war. I don't really have a problem with them. People around here tend to see them as invading marauders planning to burn and pillage the countryside. But I've been to Arizona, boss. Before the Legion, it was a nasty place. So thick with raiders you couldn't trade with a town 2 miles up the road. Caesar's laws aren't nice, and their actions aren't always pretty. But then neither am I. But you keep me around. It's big, it's bright, and it's one of the biggest cities still left from before the war. Well, mostly anyway. Used to be just a curiosity. The buildings were pre-war. But it's just as full of raiders and barbarian tribes as any place else. Then Mr. House took over. Got the power turned back on. And got the tribes reformed into something civilized. And now they run his casinos for him. Sure, boss.
Raul is one of my favorite of the companions the courier can have, mainly because he has a compelling background and is a wealth of information. Like many of our companions, he has a somewhat tragic origin story, but as a pre-war ghoul, that trait is almost certain to be expected. One topic that revolves around Raul is the impact of the elderly on society, and vice versa. I do like that New Vegas is willing to explore this topic, since it is one that society generally likes to avoid. No one enjoys imagining their elderly years and the uncertainty that comes with them. For an example of a piece of media that tackles this topic frequently and expertly, I invite you to watch The Golden Girls. While this interaction with Ranger Andy and the preceding conversation with Raul are only the beginning of this topic, I'll be sure to explore it further as we meet others in the Mojave and our understanding of Raul expands. I also love what Raul is able to share about Robert House, and he is shockingly close in his theories about the connection between pre-war Robert House and our Mr. House from New Vegas. I do also find his knowledge on House to be believable, given his background as a ghoul and the explanations he gives. Robert House was a celebrity after all, and the general public across the world keep up with sensational celebrities. After grabbing some sleep in Gabe's motel room, he heads back to the Dino's Mouth to meet the nighttime sniper, Boone.
God damn it. Don't sneak up on me like that. What do you want? Yeah, I guess maybe I am. But not like you. Huh. Maybe it should have been you I was expecting all along. Why are you here? Yeah, well, you see anybody wearing Legion Crimson or a lot of sports equipment, you just let me know. You still haven't answered my question. I think you better leave. Wait. You just got into town. Maybe you shouldn't go. Not just yet. I need someone I can trust. You're a stranger. That's a start. I want you to find something out for me. I don't know if there's anything to find, but I need someone to try. My wife was taken from our home by Legion slavers one night while I was on watch. They knew when to come and what route to take, and they only took Carla. Someone set it up. I don't know who. My wife's dead. I want the son of a bitch who sold her. Bring him out in front of the nest here while I'm on duty. I work nights. I'll give you my NCR beret to put on. It'll be our signal, so I know you're standing with him. And I'll take care of the rest. I need to do this myself. Good. I'll make it worth your while. And one more thing. We shouldn't speak again. Not until it's over. No one in town knows that I know what happened to my wife. Best they never know. Or the Legion will be after me next. I know, all right? That's all you need to know. Yeah.
Despite being rather short-spoken, we learn a bit about our nighttime sniper. The task he gives us is a grim one, but he also sets in motion a veritable whodunit for our courier to solve. Gabe starts his investigation with Manny Vargas, the daytime sniper and Boone's former friend.
You have any luck with the ghouls? I'm counting on you. Man, everybody. That girl didn't have one friend in this whole town. She didn't want any. She wanted to sit in her room all day and make herself miserable, and she went out of her way to be rude. She upset a lot of people. You wouldn't have liked her either. Believe me, when I heard the news, my first thought was, I owe somebody big. I figured Boone would come around after a while. But he hasn't. I'm starting to think that if he doesn't find her, things will never go back to the way they were. Yeah, see ya.
While Manny does not have the best outlook on Boone's wife, which we already know, we have no evidence that he caused her abduction. If we look at Manny's computer, we can see that one of the Great Khans traveling with Benny left him a message thanking him for letting them stay in his apartment. This text, and the many mattresses on the floor, reveal that Manny is willing to help a criminal faction in the Mojave, although we do not know for certain how far he would be willing to help them, since Manny also says he wants his time in Novac to be permanent. We also see from the text that the Khans do not particularly trust Benny, and the writer states that they are on their way to Boulder City, verifying the information Manny already told the courier. After his visit with Manny, Gabe goes to question Ranger Andy.
Word on Station Charlie. Carla was a knockout. Whenever Boone walked around with her, he always had this funny grin on his face like he couldn't believe his luck. I know we couldn't. That wasn't the only reason she stuck out, though. That girl never minced words. If she'd had better food or hospitality, she'd let you hear it. Trouble was, she usually had. I don't think she meant it. She really was a sweet girl. I think she just wanted to remind herself that there's still nicer places in this world than Novac. Who could blame her for that? Had his wife taken. I don't think he'll ever be the same as he was. Damn shame. I told the Rangers up at the station to keep an eye out, but there's just too much ground out there for them to cover. Look out for yourself.
Ranger Andy shows his character by revealing he radioed Station Charlie to be on the lookout for Boone's wife, which is probably the most anyone else in town did for Carla and Boone. Andy is also our unlikeliest culprit in the abduction. Also, Cliff seems to like his dinosaur figurines a bit too much. Speaking of Cliff, let's question him.
Welcome back. Can I get you anything? Can't say we spoke much. Boone did most of the buying for him. She was in the store once, but she didn't stay long. Had a look on her face like she'd smelled something sour. But far as I can remember, the gift shop smelled fine. Well, fine as it always does. Come back soon now.
Besides proving he is not insightful or self-aware, Cliff gives us little information and fewer reasons to suspect him. Following that conversation, I decide to seek out the diluted truths from Nobark.
You've seen them too, haven't you? I can see it in your eyes. I knew I wasn't the only one. I don't trust a man that doesn't have something strange going on about him, because it means he's hiding it from you. If a man's wearing his pants on his head, or if he says his words backwards from time to time, you know it's all laid out there for you. But if he's friendly to strangers and keeps his home spick and span, more often than not he's done something even his own ma couldn't forgive. Seen it all. Seen shadowy folk come to his room and leave again in the middle of the night. Thought one might have gone in the lobby too for a spell. Could be that person went in to get something. Or used the John, maybe. Mighty interesting either way, you ask me. I thought it was cannibals, come to eat us all for sure, so I kept out of sight. But now I know better. More rat men come up from the underneath to steal young women with promises of riches and fancy mud mansions with all the latest designer appliances. They covered our lady folks' long hair for wigs, it said, being either bald or balding themselves. If anyone asks, we never spoke.
As usual, what Novac witnessed that night is confused in his addled brain, but we do have a solid lead to check out in the motel's lobby. In the motel lobby, we find the room quite empty, but we also find a locked safe behind the counter. After busting a bobby pin trying to open it, Gabe finds a bill of sale hidden inside. Reading the note, Gabe discovers the culprit behind Carla's abduction was Jeannie Mae Crawford, the town's leader. She sold Carla to Caesar's Legion for 1,000 bottle caps, as well as her unborn child for an additional pending 500 bottle caps. Before we confront Jeannie Mae, I have Gabe stake out the McBride Ranch, since midnight is quickly approaching. As he waits, Gabe can see a shimmering entity walking closer to the corral. After opening fire, we discover the Brahmin attacker is a Nightkin wielding a minigun. The mutant also has a recording on it. The text describes the recording as incoherent gibberish. Apparently, the Nightkin believed the Brahmin were keeping it awake at night by screaming in its head, leading the mutant to try and kill them all. Dusty and his wife are grateful for the assistance. We also learn that neither Dusty nor Alice knew Carla and Boone particularly well, which makes sense since the couple are already established loners in Novac. Alice even seems to think Carla is still in Novac, saying she wants to get to know them better. I have Gabe heal his radiation with the local doctor, Ada Strauss, before having my courier confront Jeannie Mae.
Is everything all right? Awful late to be dropping in unexpected. Nothing that wouldn't be wrong with any man who loses a wife, I suppose. Poor dear. I know he thinks she was kidnapped, but I'm not so sure she didn't just run off on her own. You could tell she was thinking about it ever since they arrived. How should I put it? I guess you could say she was kinda like a cactus flower. Real pretty to look at, but there was just no getting close to her. She never did take to living here. She liked the big lights and fast living of New Vegas. I got the feeling she was trying to get Boone to leave with her, but I guess she got tired of waiting. Okay, if that's what you think.
Jeannie Mae seems to be aware that Boone knows his wife was kidnapped, but also seems to think her flippant explanations are enough to divert suspicion. In truth, Jeannie Mae is simply leaning into Carla's less than stellar reputation around town to hide her own wrongdoing. In the end, though, Jeannie Mae's insistence on holding onto the Legion's bill of sale to receive money for Carla's unborn child was her undoing, and she pays the price. Following Jeannie Mae's demise, Gabe instructs Raoul it's time for them to part ways. We learn Raoul has a shack somewhere in the Mojave, where we can recruit him again later. For now, it's time to report back to Boone.
That's it then. How did you know? I guess I shouldn't be surprised. It'd be like them to keep paperwork. Here. This is all I can give. I think our dealings are done here. No. People die out there. Often enough that no one worries about blame. They're too anxious to forget it happened in the first place, I guess. Besides, I was on break when it happened. I don't know. I won't be staying, I know that. Don't see much point in anything right now, except hunting legionaries. Maybe I'll wander. Like you. You don't want to do that. Yeah, that might be true. That's reason enough for me to take you up on it, I suppose, but this isn't gonna end well. Fine. Let's get out of here.
We see that Boone is a rather cold-hearted individual and has already constructed an alibi for his murder of Jeannie Mae Crawford. There is the shared topic of revenge between himself, Raoul, and the courier, but I would like to discuss that idea later. For now, Gabe recruits Boone as a companion before venturing back to Outpost Charlie to investigate the quiet ranger station. Inside the station, we find all the NCR soldiers and rangers dead. The station has also been meticulously mined to surprise anyone coming to investigate. The courier also finds 2 audio logs. The first shows that the NCR outpost was surprised by disguised legionnaires, while the second log says the following.
This is a message to the NCR from the Legion. We are coming for you. Run, and we will catch you. Hide, and we will find you. No matter what you do, you are all going to die. We took one of the women alive.
From these recordings, the details support traits about the Legion's tactics we already know. They use subterfuge to infiltrate locations, they excel at ambushes, and the message they leave is meant to be a psychological blow to the NCR. But the recordings from the station in Gabe's possession, he can report the news to Ranger Andy.
Any word on Station Charlie? What? What happened? Those were good men at that station. Good men. This whole town was sleeping a lot easier because of them. Now, who knows what we're in for? The Legion? Christ. We'd be better off with raiders. Well, thanks for telling me. I know that knowledge didn't come without risk. Here, take this. Courtesy of the Ranger Veterans Fund. Look out for yourself.
Following this conversation, I have Gabe speak with Boone.
What is it? You got no right asking me that. Drop it. It's just something I'm not ready to discuss. With you or anybody. The Legion's the only thing I want on my mind right now. He was a good spotter. Yeah, we were. No. Sure. First NCR Recon. It's a sniper battalion. Sees a lot of action. They moved us around a lot. I was stationed at Camp Golf for a while. Last I heard, they're at Camp McCarran. They pick you out if you do well at the firing range. Pays a little better, so I said okay. Yeah, you can tell by the patch. Bear skull with crossed rifles behind it. Slogan underneath. The last thing you never see. Pretty accurate. And so are we. Was an airport before the war. Command liked it because it was already fortified, and it let them keep an eye on the strip. They've got an old monorail that still runs between them. Used mostly for supplies and deployment. But if you get leave, you're allowed to go gamble. Was General Oliver's post. But I heard he's been up at the dam a lot lately. Guessing Colonel Shu is running it. Didn't know him. He's a signature on my discharge papers. Wasn't real popular, though. Even overheard my CO complain about him once. General Wait and See, he called him. Yeah, he introduced himself to me once. I shook his hand. Doubt he remembered me now, though. When he looked at you, you could see he understood. After some of the things we'd seen, that meant something. But I heard he'd be a general right now if Oliver didn't know the president. The big one. The one the NCR is trying to hold on to, that the Legion's pushing for. Whole war depends on holding it. It was on the front line for a while. Only resort in New Vegas no one wanted to get sent to. Doesn't have that kind of importance anymore, though. They pulled most of the troops out of there after we took the Hoover Dam. All right. Okay. It's NCR land for the most part. We tamed it. Now we're settling it. A lot of people complain about it, but they forget what it was like before we showed up. It's a lot of territory to secure. Too much, even for a big army like the NCR's. Okay. Coming east was about securing the land so people could live without fear. It's not always that simple, but I think the cause is still right. And God help us if they lose. Okay. Yeah, lots of thoughts. All about the best ways to kill them. Okay. Yeah.
Let's talk about revenge. This topic reoccurs throughout the narrative of Fallout New Vegas, not just through the actions of the courier, but also through some of his companions, as we will come to see. I want to pay special attention to how the concept of revenge plays out for the characters in question, since their vengeful ideas and actions will not only develop each companion as a character, but also the courier himself. The first vengeful companion I have met in this playthrough is Raul, although his specific character arc does not revolve around the topic of revenge. However, Raul's background on the ranch near Mexico City elicits a possibility in which his life could have taken a vengeful turn. After losing all but his youngest sister during the arson of his family ranch, Raul chooses to protect his sister rather than hunt down his family's killers.
The ones who came after us, I killed. The rest, I left be. I had to take care of Rafaela, not throw my life away on revenge.
In his past, Raul chose to prioritize saving the family he had left rather than avenging the family he lost. This choice can be an important lesson for the courier, who also may be driven by revenge after his near-fatal encounter with Benny in Good Springs. Despite the tragedy inflicted upon him, Raul's choice can inform the courier that finding something or someone to care for can override the need for revenge. What that something or someone might be for the courier remains to be seen. Then there's Boone, a man we can clearly see and assist in following through on his own quest for vengeance. Boone is different from the courier and Raul in that he has already lost the only thing that ever meant anything to him, his wife, Carla. Boone meeting the courier and asking for assistance in finding his wife's betrayer is more an act of necessity, showing he is willing to use complete strangers in his efforts to exact his revenge in Novac. And when the opportunity to take his revenge is laid before him, Boone pulls the trigger without hesitation and asks for proof later. Despite his quick planning and calculating cold demeanor, Boone proves to be reckless in the end as he commits a murder to avenge his wife. Boone's quest for revenge is different from the courier's in that, while we spend much of the game hunting down Benny, Boone is nearing the culmination of his vengeance when we first meet him. Once he obtains it, Boone has little plan for his life other than to continue killing Legionnaires. However, even if the courier offers to help Boone in his quest, Boone says,
"Yeah, that might be true. That's reason enough for me to take you up on it, I suppose, but this isn't gonna end well."
Boone has no illusions to the consequences of his actions. His time in Novac is over. The life he had is gone, and the life he took in fulfillment of his vengeance has stained who he was and who he will be. Boone is damned for what he has done, and he vocalizes that belief in this quote. He knows that, for his misdeed, there will be a reckoning, just as he was the reckoning for Jeannie Mae's misdeeds against him and his late wife. The courier, Boone, and Eddie head west from Novac through a narrow valley and onto the grounds of the REPCONN rocket facility. The trio encounter feral ghouls roaming around the plaza and dispense of them before heading into the building through a side entrance, though Gabe is approached by an NCR ranger.
You've done a good turn for the NCR, and now we'd like to do one for you. There's an NCR emergency two-way radio. You call, and we'll come run it. You're not alone out here. The NCR has your back. Stay safe and good hunting.
Though definitely a scripted moment with my high standing with the NCR faction, this short exchange shows that the NCR Rangers assist those that help them, no questions asked.
Hey! Over here! Are you listening? Go to the big room on the east side of this building and take the metal staircase all the way up. And hurry. Who I am doesn't matter, Smooth Skin. Stop wasting time and get up here. Like I said, find the metal staircase in the big room on the east side of the building. It's where they used to make rockets. Get moving.
Whoever is at the other end of the intercom is certainly bossy in how his orders are abrasively given. The speaker may also not be human, considering he calls the courier smooth skin in a derogatory way. How he knows that the courier is a smooth skin without seeing any cameras around is beyond me. Our trio skulks around the REPCONN facility, encountering a number of roaming feral ghouls, some dead ghouls in brown robes, and a couple of dead nightkin. We eventually make our way to a locked door in another intercom.
All right, Smooth Skin, I'm letting you in. You better watch yourself. I'll sure as hell be watching you.
Entering the upper floor labs, we meet a man named Chris Haverson.
God, but are you ugly. Get upstairs and talk to Jason before I throw up just from looking at you. Your pranks won't work on me, Smooth Skin. They won't work on Jason either. Stop wasting my time, Smoothskin. Go waste Jason's.
It appears our speaker from the intercom is human, although he does not believe himself to be. Walking through the upper labs, we see a number of ghouls dressed in brown robes, the same as others we have come across in the Mojave Wasteland. Upstairs, we find an unmanned terminal with some communications between long-forgotten office staff. The first is from the REPCONN facilities manager, Emily Niemeyer, reminding the staff to be courteous in the kitchen. The second is from the launch facility project manager, Steve Reynolds. This message shows that REPCONN was recently acquired by Robco, a name we should already be familiar with. We know Robco was founded by Robert House, an eccentric and genius-level entrepreneur who started his company at the age of 22. We also know our duplicitous cowboy robot, Victor, was developed by Robco at some point. In this message, we see that Robert House was branching his company into the field of rocket technology. The last communication is from Steve Reynolds to Martin Niemeyer, the site's senior engineer. If Martin has any relation to Emily Niemeyer, we are unsure so far. In this message, Steve thanks Martin for his years of service before informing him that it's time for the older colleague to bow out in a graceful retirement. I hope Robco had a great HR department back in the day, because I feel an ageism claim on its way. I will not be keeping track of these long-dead characters and their traits, but I will make a few notes. First, it may be important later on to recognize that Robert House and Robco had attained the technologies of REPCONN at some point prior to the Great War. This detail may be significant later on, but for now it is an interesting acknowledgement of Robco's history. Second, we can see the merger into Robco was not seamless for some of REPCONN's employees, as some were strongly recommended to take the exit ramp. The last message also mentions that an incident had taken place at the facility, although we are unsure of the specifics. In a nearby room, Gabe encounters a neon green glowing ghoul named Jason Bright.
Hello, Wanderer. Please forgive us our humble surroundings. Our true home awaits us in the far beyond. Have you come to help us complete the great journey? And they've been shooting them down like animals, haven't they? Those ghouls were members of my flock, even after the madness consumed their minds. We never let them wander free. We kept them safe on the first floor. We kept them contained. The demons must have let them out, somehow. And now they are lost forever, denied the salvation and healing glow of the far beyond. Please, Wanderer, bear in mind that every feral ghoul you spare now is one that we can save later. Once the way is clear, our feral brothers and sisters will accompany us on the great journey. If there are any left. The demons appeared from nowhere. Except it might be more accurate to say they never actually appeared at all. The demons are invisible. Where one of them stands, the most one sees is the air shimmering, like sunlight on water. They set upon us as we were on our way to worship one morning. We had just entered the basement. My flock fought bravely and killed a few, but at such cost. Nearly half of us died or went missing. The rest of us retreated up here. One of the demons raved at us, but they have not tried to attack us since. Still, their demonic presence brought all progress towards the great journey to a standstill. But now you have come. Once again, the Creator has sent a human to help us across a seemingly insurmountable obstacle. Yes, over the intercom. Threats of death should we step outside. Guarantees of safety should we stay locked away. It went on for hours, and did not always make sense. But that was the first day only. Since then, silence. Will you drive away the demons, Wanderer? Praise the Creator. Bless you, Wanderer. Bless us all. As soon as the underground has been rid of demons, preparations for the great journey can resume.
Jason is an interesting character and is reminiscent of the Children of Adam seen in Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, along with other quasi-religious groups seen in the Fallout universe. Jason Bright is absolutely a religious leader in this game and acts as both preacher and prophet for his ghoul flock, as he calls them. One aspect of Jason I will point out as unusual is that he is a glowing one type of ghoul. For the uninitiated of you watching this video, a glowing one is a ghoul whose radiation level is so intense that they expel radiation constantly and attack with radiation-based attacks. No matter how near the courier gets to Jason, he does not give off any radiation, which is a bit strange. However, I will also point out that all the other glowing ones we meet in this game are feral, so it is highly unusual that Jason Bright is able to maintain any semblance of lucidity. That, or perhaps his prophet persona, is the culmination of his brand of radiation-induced insanity. One flaw I will also draw attention to is the key Jason gives the courier. The key unlocks the door to the facility basement level, but as we will soon see, that level is entirely overrun by Nightkin, which does align with why Jason and his flock cannot continue their work there. However, it is also unclear why Jason and his followers cannot move freely about the ground floors, since the feral ghouls do not attack them and the demons are locked in the basement. I will call it a plot hole, since I can see no reason why the cult of ghouls could not have met the courier at the front door, or outside to welcome him and ask for assistance, rather than have him face and gun down the feral ghoul brothers and sisters. Entering the basement, our trio has to be quiet and sneaky to avoid the invisible Nightkin prowling the dark depths of this facility. They are initially successful before the courier stumbles upon a somewhat saner Nightkin named Davison.
What's that, Antler? We have a visitor. An assassin, more like. I say kill it, Antler, for safe's sake. Okay, Antler, I'll ask. Hi, human. Why you come here? Who is Antler? Who is Antler? Antler, the human asks about you. What do I tell it? All right. Yes, of course. Who Antler is not important to you. Antler wants that you deal with me. Me? I am devoted to Antler. But before Antler... Captain once. Last name Davison. First name... Don't remember. I commanded a troop of Nightkin, the Master's elite. A great honor. Very proud. Something happened. We wandered the desert. Life without Master was hard. The others' minds going strange, going crazy. But then, I found us new Master. I found us Antler. Since then, everything's been going really well. A human who is friend to ghouls? Suspicious. You mean the ones upstairs? Antler used intercom, told them stay put, but they want to come down in basement anyways. I cannot allow. My kin are not right in head like I am. They attack you on sight. Ghouls too. They crazy. Your ghoul friends have to wait until you find what Antler brought us to get. Good. Antler brought us here for a reason. Why was that, Antler? Right. A piece of paper. Shipment invoice. Hundreds of stealth boys sent here a long time ago. But stealth boys must be in the one room. One we don't search yet. The one we can't search. A ghoul, but not squishy like others. This ghoul is tough. I thought Antler said, send my kin into that room, but 3 died. Ghoul is a crack shot and set traps too. After I realized I heard Antler wrong, so I locked the door to keep kin out and wait for Antler to tell me what to do. Then, you come along. Antler says you are solution. Yes, Antler says we leave here as soon as we get stealth boys. Let me give you key. Antler had me lock the door. The ghoul inside, not expecting a human. Maybe he don't shoot you. Maybe he will.
Davison and Jason Bright honestly have a bit in common. They both believe in an inanimate and voiceless entity that tells them what to do, and they both lead their respective groups. Davison also gives a reasonable explanation as to why the other Nightkin are perpetually hostile despite the fact that the courier is willing to help them. Stepping past a dead Nightkin, we unlock a nearby door with the key Davison gave the courier. Inside, we meet a ghoul named Harland.
Come and get it, you big dumb. Hey, you're not one of those things out there. Who the hell are you? And I bet he told you it's the Creator's will for you to risk your ass instead of him, right? Well, good luck with that. I'd give you a hand, but no thanks. I may look like a corpse, but I'm partial to living. First off, I'm not trapped. This was a tactical choice, all right? I'm no match for those things out there. So I found a good defensive position, and I've been defending it, right? Oh, who am I fooling? I'm trapped. Name's Harland. Pleased to meet you. What happened was, I was escorting folks down to work when those things attacked us. Most of the fight was upstairs, but some folks panicked and made for the basement, and I went after them. Well, turns out there were even more of those bastards down here than upstairs, and things went to shit fast. I couldn't find the others, so I fell back to this room, set up a nice little kill zone. End of story. I'm not delicate. Radroach meat for protein, condensation off the pipes for water, and I do my business over in the far corner. I wouldn't say it's been comfy. Guess the outfit gives that away, huh? I never did buy into that religious mumbo-jumbo with the robes and all that shit. It gets lonely out in the wastes, okay? And I don't have to tell you that Bright's group has got some fine-looking goulettes in it. Or maybe I would have to tell you. Anyway, I helped them out, and they kept me supplied with ammo and pleasant company. Huh. Well, you're polite. I'll give you that. If this was just between you and me, I'd do as you ask. But it's not. I had a friend with me when those mutant bastards came out of nowheres. She panicked and ran the wrong direction. Further into the basement. She's probably dead. But I ain't leaving until I know for sure. I'd have gone looking myself, except I wouldn't last a minute out there. You, on the other hand, seem pretty resourceful. Find my friend, and I'll get out of your way. Thanks. Let me know what you find out. Here's hoping she's okay.
Harland does seem rather capable as a fighter, and has successfully held off the Nightkin for an undetermined amount of time. However, considering we have never seen him fight and his position in the room does give him an advantage, it is easier to believe that he would not fare well against the invisible Nightkin if he were to leave this room. The courier, Boone, and Eddie continue on through the basement, although I am not as careful as I would have preferred. After having to put down a few of Davison's Nightkin team, Gabe finds Harland's friend dead in a makeshift cell. The courier returns to him to deliver the news.
Did you find my friend? I see. Well, spare me the details. Damn it. I'm gonna miss that crooked yellow smile. Alright. You did your part, so I'll do mine. Look around up here if you want. I'm gonna make a break for topside.
Investigating the whereabouts of the Stealth Boys, Gabe finds a terminal with 3 entries. The first is from Bill Martin, the REPCONN custodian, to the Robco HQ supply department. Bill is excited to be part of Robco, but also questions if the company has a shipping problem, since the REPCONN facility received a new technology called Stealth Boys. We also learned that Robco developed the Stealth Boy technology prior to the Great War. The second entry is from Daniel Knevet, the Human Resources Manager to all REPCONN staff. Daniel admonishes the staff at the facility for their misuse of the Stealth Boy technology to perform perverted and likely crude acts against fellow employees. To be fair, becoming effectively invisible would be quite a temptation. I think someone wrote 4 books about that temptation, in fact. Daniel informs all staff that using Stealth Boys will be grounds for immediate termination. The final entry is from Sanjeev Rajan, another REPCONN custodian to the Robco HQ supply department. Sorry if I butchered your name, Sanjeev. He informs Robco that the Stealth Boys have been sent back, although he admits that 5 of the units were never recovered from REPCONN employees who took and misused them. These entries show that the general attitude of REPCONN employees may not have been the most professional at times, and it is possible the misuse of the Stealth Boys was part of the incident described in an earlier log. With the information in hand, we return to Davison to tell him the Stealth Boys are no longer at REPCONN.
Antler sings for stealth boys. Have you found them? Liar! The invoice said stealth boys here. Antler read it out loud to me. But invoice note said stealth boys were here. Why can't that note be true? What, Antler? But human could be lying. Stealing the stealth boys for itself. Oh, Antler, you trust so easy. Your lucky day, human. Antler, believe you. Nightkin will follow the new note to find stealth boys. Better be there.
With his prize eluding him, Davison leads the rest of the Nightkin out of the basement. I'm not sure why he couldn't have told them to stand down and let the courier assist them before, but I also need to consider that Davison can have a full conversation with a cow skull.
I'm an idiot!
The courier returns to Jason to inform him the basement is clear.
Is the way clear? I am Jason Bright, the prophet of the Great Journey. All the ghouls you see here are members of my flock. An auspicious name, don't you think? It was mine before I became as I am now. Before the Great War, even. Truly does the Creator author a destiny for each and every one of us. We wish to escape the barbarity of the wasteland, especially the violence and bigotry of its human inhabitants. The Creator has promised to my flock a new land, a place of safety and healing, a paradise in the far beyond. Preparations for the Great Journey were nearly complete when the demons appeared. I have glimpsed it only in visions, Wanderer, but what I have seen is truly miraculous. It is a place of light and healing, and I know in my soul that my flock will be safe there. You're referring to Chris. I doubt you had much luck if you tried telling him that he's human. We had the same discussions when he first appeared, and the same lack of success. He believes he is one of us. Soon enough we realized that Chris was a gift from the Creator. He is integral to the success of the Great Journey. Praise the Creator, and bless you, Wanderer. The way is clear. I will lead my flock through the basement to the sacred site. I hope you will come find us there, Wanderer. There is much to be done.
After I have Gabe pilfer the lab floor of supplies, the courier follows the Bright followers into the basement. The underground levels are more extensive than we previously saw, as great tunnels run further underground. They culminate in a rocket test firing chamber where Jason waits.
I waited to speak with you one last time before I descended to the launch pad, Wanderer. I want you to know that we will remember for all eternity how you delivered us to the threshold of the Great Journey. Our preparations are nearly complete, but the rockets that will carry us to salvation are yet missing vital components. If you would still help us, Wanderer, speak to Chris. He can tell you what is missing. There is no way that we can thank you enough, Wanderer. Your arrival here was a blessing. We will remember you always. After all that you have done for us, I suppose you deserve to know everything. When Chris came to us, we tried to convince him that he was human. But this only angered him. He seemed lost. We decided to let him stay with us for a few days, over the course of which we learned that his technical skills far surpassed our own. It became clear that the Creator had sent him to us, to ensure the success of the Great Journey. Equally clear was that Chris should labor in blessed ignorance of his humanity, and his inability to make the journey himself. It is no coincidence that two humans have been vital to the success of the Great Journey. It is my belief that the Creator sent you and Chris to expiate the sins of your kind against mine. You are redeemers both. Such is the Creator's will. Vision upon vision has shown me that, were Chris to accompany us, he would die in minutes. The radiation around the launch pad alone would kill Chris in minutes. The radioactivity of the far beyond is much stronger. Chris shall be declared the saint of the great journey before we depart. I hope this will ease his sadness. Yes, the rockets will convey us to our promised land in the far beyond. Vision upon vision has confirmed it. There is no way that we can thank you enough, Wanderer. Your arrival here was a blessing. We will remember you always.
Yes. Jason says that I am to cooperate with you on the final tasks necessary to launch the Great Journey. I'm the flock's resident engineer. I've always been good with machines. Jason says the Great Journey would have been impossible without me. Of course, my skills aren't much use unless I have the right materials. That's where you come in. When I joined the flock, Jason made it clear that he wanted me to supervise the repairs, not do them myself. It would be a waste of my gifts to work on just one system at a time. From up here, I've been able to supervise the entire project. I thought we were past all that, Smooth Skin. But you just can't resist the chance to mess with me. Typical human. I was human once, you know. Grew up in Vault 34, northeast of here. Nice upbringing if you like assault rifles and target practice. But oh, you prefer machines that don't shoot people? Not so nice then. Who should maintain the Vault's reactor? Hauser? Mitchell? No. Make it Haversam. He likes machines. Haversam won't mind getting irradiated. Haversam won't mind mutating. He's already ugly as it is. Haversam won't mind when his hair starts falling out after a few years. There's no connection, Haversam. You're neurotic. Bald? You call this bald, Smoothskin? I'm a monster. A monster! Oh, God. You're telling me the truth, aren't you? Oh, no. How could they do this to me? For 2 years. My God, I've been a joke to them. Do you have any idea how easy it'd be for me to sabotage those rockets? That'd be a joke, huh? One hell of a joke. What, you think I'm too stupid to pull it off? I know enough to get their rockets working, don't I? So I can make them fail, too. Like I could forgive myself for getting duped like this? They used me, and now they'll throw me away. And dying would be worse than this? Used up and thrown away like garbage? Oh, so I've redeemed the human race, is that it? What a crock. The human race can't stand me. So, you want me to accompany you on your adventures across the wasteland, is that it? Life among humans again? That's what you're suggesting? I guess it's the only chance I've got. I can't believe I'm agreeing to this, but I'll give it a try. I'll get Jason and his flock on their way, and then I'll head for Novac. Are you ready to get started? Those rockets aren't going to launch themselves. I was close to completing work on the rockets before we were driven into hiding on the top floor. 2 components were missing. A quantity of isotope 239 igniting agent, and a set of thrust control modules. The igniting agent is highly radioactive and decays quickly. That's why we can't use the drums that leak down on the launch pad. It's no longer potent enough. I need you to find an intact, shielded container of the igniting agent. As for the thrust control modules, they were custom built for these rockets. They won't even launch without them. Very well, we don't need a huge amount. 2 to 3 liters should be enough. Bye.
After helping Chris avert a crisis of faith, or perhaps ego, Gabe sets out to find the igniting agent. Chris can tell us of radioactive ruins located near Novac that may house the materials, and that the scavengers of Novac may have picked up some components as well. We find the igniting agent on a man wearing a yellow radiation suit near Clark Field. He also has a journal on him. The man is apparently named Mr. Radical. According to the journal, the man was a scavenger who delved into irradiated areas for loot. 5 days in, he complains of vomiting but does not attribute his symptoms to radiation poisoning. On the 9th day, he explains that he bought a glowing canister from a scrapyard. He then planned to go to Clark Field to test the suit further and potentially pour the radioactive liquid on himself. Considering we find him dead, we can safely say his test didn't go as planned.
I'm an idiot!
A question I have is how the courier knew where the igniting agent was. No one at the REPCONN facility mentions Mr. Radical, and yet our Pip-Boy leads the courier right to him. There is definitely a cause and effect and character knowledge issue happening here, but the solution is relatively simple. Mr. Radical's journal mentions a scrapyard, which is where we will find the other parts for the rockets. To fix the cause and effect problem, the courier should only be able to visit the junkyard first before getting the information about Mr. Radical's whereabouts from the yard's owner. Problem solved. Gabe and his team clear Clark Field of golden geckos, a variant of our scaly friends we can find in irradiated sections of the wastes. Afterward, the three return to Chris at the REPCONN facility.
Have you found the components we discussed? Yes, that's the stuff. And the container's shielding must be intact or you'd be dead by now. Now all I need is the thrust control modules. REPCONN has been ransacked so many times by scavengers, it's hard to know where the components might turn up. If they turn up. Jason has mentioned some industrial ruins to the east that are supposed to be highly radioactive. Scavengers wouldn't know the value of the modules just by looking at them. If you know any junk dealers in the area, I'd start there. Bye.
Gabe heads to the Gibson scrapyard just north of Novac and within sight of the Helios 1 facility. Outside, we meet the owner of the junkyard, Old Lady Gibson.
Hi there. I'm Old Lady Gibson, or so they tell me. I've got odds and ends for sale, and I'm pretty good at fixing things, too. You might have noticed the very large building just north of here. That's Helios 1. The NCR runs the place, so it's off limits to prospectors. Sometimes it seems like I spent the better portion of my youth in that old wreck of a building. Me and my hubby, may the man rest in peace, used to scavenge there. If it weren't bolted down, you can bet we took it and sold it. A lot of the scrap you see around here is from REPCONN, even my favorite chair. The way I heard it, the Brotherhood of Steel ran the place before the NCR took it away from them. I'm not sure who started shooting first. But when it was over, the Brotherhood, with all their fancy armor and weapons, was on the run. Nobody's heard from them since. Well, I'll give you a hint. They used to just call me Gibson. I hope you can figure out the rest. I don't mind, to be honest. Living long is a real accomplishment these days. Remains to be seen if I end up dying peaceful in my bed. As it so happens, I do have some thrust modules, but they're expensive. 500 caps worth of expensive. Yes, you are quite the smooth talker. What the hell? $250 it is. Pleasure doing business with you.
Subject E, diagnosis complete. Begin recording. My name is Whitley. I'm a researcher at Adams Air Force Base. Until recently, I was in charge of the Duraframe reinforcement project for the combat model iBots. iBot Duraframe Subject E is both the prototype and the last functional model in this test group. I was prepared to make several significant upgrades to the machines. However, as the project was canceled and all Duraframe assets are being diverted to Hellfire armor, I am sending this model to the Navarro outpost. If you're listening to this log from one of our Enclave outposts in Chicago, give this unit whatever repairs it needs so it can continue to Navarro.
Following our conversation with Gibson, it appears some key words were spoken which activated something hidden in Eddie. The recording tells us a little more about our hovering friend. Eddie can play recordings. Its official model name is iBot Duraframe Subject E, is the last of its model. It was sent to an outpost in Navarro, and Eddie was constructed by a faction called the Enclave. Returning to Chris, the courier gives the last of the rocket components to him. With the rockets ready to launch, our journal tells us to head to the launch platform, although how it knows to do so, despite Chris not telling the courier to, is another problem that has an obvious solution, I would hope.
Gather all. May the Creator guide my words and help me speak true. The Almighty Creator has seen fit to answer our prayers. The time has come for us to board the rockets and begin the great journey. Though it may seem that all humans despise us, the Creator has seen fit to instruct us differently. The journey ahead would have been impossible if not for the intercession of two human friends. One you, the other a long, abiding companion. To our new friend, we say thanks, and promise never to forget how he cleared from our path the demons who sought to stay our journey. But to Chris, we owe more than thanks. Chris, you have made this great journey a reality. From this moment forward, you will be remembered as the saint of the great journey. We shall never forget you. I ask that you forgive us, Chris, and give us your blessing, and we bestow ours upon you. Seekers, board the rockets. Take your seats. The great journey awaits. To the promised land we go. To the far beyond.
While one might criticize Jason's address for having him refer to Chris as a human, it is highly likely Chris and Jason talked about Chris's realization of the truth while the courier was tracking down the components, so I'll let this possible critique go. Events and conversations can certainly happen off-screen and away from the main protagonist. At the launch platform, if the courier has a high enough skill in science, he can correct the rocket's course to be more accurate. I have Gabe do so, and then launch the ghouls on their great journey. Normally, Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries plays as the launch begins, but since I would prefer this video to actually be viewable, you can play the tune in your head. I would like to explore the rest of the REPCONN facility for other long-forgotten logs. In one terminal, Gabe finds a memo about cake. In the message, Senior Engineer Gordon Pesch berates Junior Engineer Stacy Johnson for forgetting to order a cake for a party for Martin, presumably the one who is being forced to retire in an earlier entry. In another terminal, Emily Niemeyer has a conversation with Gordon Pesch. It appears Emily was surprised to hear of Martin's retirement party, and tells Gordon that she is willing to help. Considering she refers to Martin by his first name, I am going to assume Martin may be Emily's husband, but I am still unsure. We can also infer that Martin does not share the whole truth about why he is retiring with Emily. We find another terminal with 3 messages regarding an inter-office correspondence about a visit from Robco. In the first message, the general manager, Pierce Isley, speaks with the launch facility project manager, Steve Reynolds. Pierce tells Steve to ensure his employees are prepared for the upcoming visit. An experiment is to be performed, and its success may mean more money during the corporate negotiations. In the reply message, Steve tells Pierce that his team is investigating what happened during the experiment. Apparently, it did not go well. In fact, an area of the facility was highly irradiated in the aftermath and would take potential decades to be fully cleaned. In the final message, Pierce tells Steve to punish someone, since the debacle will hurt REPCONN's merger with Robco. Given what we know from other correspondences, it seems Steve chose to punish Martin Niemeyer, forcing him into a retirement. A different computer has 2 entries. In the first, the janitor, Bill Levy, messages Steve Reynolds to inform him that an old generator room has been converted into storage. The message also includes the passcode to enter the storage room. The second message is from Martin Niemeyer to Steve Reynolds. This message also seems to be a direct reply to Steve's message to Martin instructing him to retire. Martin is unsurprisingly livid and calls Steve a devious worm. Martin acknowledges this retirement is just forcing someone to take the blame, even though Martin blames Steve for the experiment incident, citing being overworked and hiring incompetent personnel. Martin does agree to the retirement, but also clearly cuts ties with Steve Reynolds. The last computer with an entry is from Steve Reynolds to all REPCONN employees. He reminds everyone that family members are not allowed access to the facility and that tourists should be directed to another building. Steve also instructs employees to report unauthorized individuals to security. He finishes his message with a very Smokey the Bear-esque slogan, saying, "Remember, only you can prevent corporate espionage." Now that we have finished our exploration of REPCONN and ended the conflict at the facility, Gabe returns to the man who sent him there in the first place, Manny Vargas.
You have any luck with the ghouls? I'm counting on you. Really? Unbelievable, man. I knew that wasn't gonna be easy. But I had a good feeling about you. You look like you've been through a lot.
Finishing the Come Fly With Me mission will be my stopping point in this video. Now it's time to review the character traits we have learned from our time in Novac, as well as evaluate some characters. Let's review the characters and factions from this second part of the video. I'm going to start with some of our Mojave people, or well, our only one I'm concluding so far. Mr. Radical, he was the man in the yellow radiation suit that we found at Clark Field. Mr. Radical was a scavenger. He tested out the effectiveness of the radiation suit. He bought radioactive igniting fluid. He's an idiot, and he's dead. I don't really have any problems with Mr. Radical. He's one of those random NPCs that usually has some weird, crazy vibe to them. And I think his craziness is probably a result of his increasing radiation sickness, which he is quite ignorant about. So he's kind of entertaining in that way, but beyond that, he's also just dead and has a little bit of backstory to him, which I appreciate. But I have no problems with him as a character. Going to the bear, the only other character that we have seen and talked to in the NCR today has been the Officer Stepanek, who was the comms officer at Outpost Charlie. So he was very direct to the courier. He doesn't want to return excess medical supplies. He's an NCR Ranger, and he was killed by the Legion whenever they ambushed the outpost. So Stepanek, I found him to be kind of, as far as he being very direct and being very by the book, you're not supposed to be here. They don't want civilians here. He also doesn't follow protocol. He wants to keep the medical supplies that he was sent in excess of. And that was just a little out of character for him to me. I don't know why he would do that when we know that he's rather direct and by the book. So I didn't care for that sort of thing. So I gave him a slightly lower score as a result. Moving on along, let's go to the rigged game. So Benny, instead of calling him that extremely long moniker now, I could just call him Benny. That's the man that was that shot the courier at the beginning of the game. He passed through Novac before heading to Boulder City. He has not paid the cons by the time they reach Novac, and we learned that through the computer terminal in Manny's apartment. So that's Benny. We'll learn more about him next episode. Skipping over to Victor, our good robot friend. He reappears in Novac ahead of the courier. He claims to not know why he's there, and he thinks something is wrong with Novac. Yeah, what's going on with that? And then last is Robert House. Obviously, if you've played the game, and this is of course a spoiler for those that haven't, Robert House is Mr. House. And yes, he is alive even after the Great War and everything. He survived it through means that we'll find out about later. He lived before the Great War. He was a genius, was a superstar. He founded Robco at 22, dated Hollywood starlets. He saved Las Vegas, shot down incoming nuclear missiles from the Lucky 38, as we'll come to see. He was assumed dead after the war. He had unusual romantic interest. He may be Mr. House, and he bought out REPCONN. Most of that information we learned from Raoul, who also was around before the Great War. But that's because he was a ghoul and through radiation became a ghoul, basically, which that whole thing we'll get into later. So that's basically everything there. I will eventually add Robert House over to Mr. House's column and delete this one. But right now I'll treat it as if I don't know and as if some of y'all don't know, even though I'm quite aware that most of y'all do. So, Cool. Let's go to our largest section, Novac. On our Novac side, we have quite a few characters to get through, and I'm also including the people from REPCONN and also Old Lady Gibson as well. Let's start with the town leader, Jeannie Mae Crawford. She wears glasses. She's well-mannered, runs the motel. She's kind of a busybody and enjoys companionship and wants the rest of the town to also be her friends, basically. She did not like Benny whenever he came through town. She is very well informed about the rest of the town. She doesn't immediately mention Boone's wife, but later she makes explanations for why Carla would leave and feigns sympathy for Boone when we learn that she actually sold Carla Boone to the Legion. She's very greedy. She's willing to sell her neighbors into slavery. She tries to hide her misdeeds, and she is murdered by Boone. Jeannie Mae actually gave her a 9 overall. She's kind of a complicated character, honestly. She's does quite a bit to hide her actions and whatnot through a facade of good deeds and being like a social good person, upstanding person in town when she's potentially even worse than Benny can be in some ways, considering he doesn't sell people into slavery. Cliff Briscoe, that's the man who runs the Dino Bite gift shop. He's on good terms with Jeannie Mae. He is kind of deluded. He's quick to give discounts to Jeannie Mae's friends, which shows maybe how much of an impact and influence she has over him. He likes his T-Rex figurines quite a lot. He's not proficient in being a merchant. He's not very insightful, and he is very literal about everything. I gave him a 9. I don't really have any problems. None of his traits really have any issues with anything. Because even though he is trying to make a profit off of things, he just seems to not be very well in tune with what the customer base could be. And that's, let's face it, there's not everyone who's good at actually running a business, kind of like him. Manny Vargas, there is a metric ton of stuff for Manny, and he shares it in a very short amount of time, which is slightly unbelievable, but at the same time, maybe he's just kind of an open book. He's the daytime sniper at Novac. He wears a red beret just like Boone. He's laid back, unlike Boone. He used to be Boone's spotter. He used to be part of the NCR military. He talked Boone into settling into Novac, and he did not get along well with Carla Boone. He loved his time in the gang, which was the Great Khans. He likely was jealous of Boone's wife. That was an implication, although he doesn't outright state it. Once part of the Great Khans, enjoyed military service. He faked sick to get out of the NCR operation. That was during the time at the massacre at Bitter Springs, which he left after that. Realistic about Novak's situation. He knows who Benny is. He knows about the platinum chip. He's willing to help in exchange for assistance for Novac. He's attracted to men. He reveals the name of the man in the checkered suit, which I already talked about. He reveals the destination of Benny and the Khans. He wants to stay settled in Novac. He has the courier to deal with the ghouls at REPCONN, thinks he owes someone for making Carla vanish, which is kind of a crappy attitude to have, but we already know he doesn't like her. And wants things to be as they were with Boone, even though I think he realizes that that's not going to be the case. He's also still willing to help his old con friends, which we know because they left him a thank you note thanking him for his help. And then he also has all these mattresses in his room where they slept. So, the reason I highlight it, that he wants to stay settled in Novac, but also still willing to help his old con friends, is because that shows a bit of a conflict that's going on with Manny, he has a hard time letting go of things, which we're already aware of, considering there's definitely the implication that, and the argument that one can make, that Manny absolutely wanted to settle in Novac with Boone as a romantic partner. Boone is not, however, of the same disposition as Manny. So that was kind of a complication, perhaps on his part, the unrequited love sort of thing going on. That caused issues with Boone's wife and between himself because of those reasons. I'm going to flat out say that it's very easy to argue, I would think, given all that we know about Manny. Because he has such a hard time getting rid of things, he looks back on his time with the Khans as a good time in his life, not necessarily a bad thing. So the problem is that he also wants to stay in Novac. He doesn't want to necessarily return to that life. So the fact that he is willing to perhaps harbor criminals, which could even potentially pose a threat to his town, shows that he has Poor judgment, at the very least. I won't say he's the brightest tool in the shed all the time. I don't mind Manny. He is a rather believable character based on what we know of him, and even has the potential to be complex if he had any growth to speak of, which he doesn't. So just because he's kind of complex doesn't necessarily, as I've stated before in previous videos, doesn't mean that he's a round character. He is definitely a flat character. He doesn't change or develop in any way. Dusty McBride and Alice McBride, they're married to one another. They both own a tiny ranch on the outskirts of Novac. Dusty lost some of his cattle to attacks. He's passive. He doesn't necessarily take action whenever this stuff happens. He's unwilling to risk himself for his cattle, which, I mean, that's fine. He's an early Novac settler and doesn't know Boone or Carla well. I don't have any problem with Dusty. I gave him a 9. I'm not going to talk too much more about them because they're more so NPCs than some of the other ones happen to be. And by NPC, I mean extremely static characters. Alice McBride, loner, just like her husband, conflicting views on Nobark, early Novac settler, has high hopes for Novac, and doesn't realize Carla went missing, which just shows how much of a loner she is. She does not even realize that one of the townsfolk has gone missing. Ranger Andy, injured, former NCR Ranger, frustrated by his injury, wants to be helpful, stays in contact with the Ranger post up the road. He's kind of like Manny, has a hard time letting go. Trying not to worry about the Ranger post. He thinks highly of the Rangers. He's a victim of a Legion bomb that was done by a child. He recently fell down the motel stairs, which is why he's more injured now. Willing to be an instructor, he teaches the courier a combat takedown, asks the courier to check out Outpost Charlie, and tries to help Boone locate his wife. I mean, yes, I could say he's obviously doesn't like that Outpost Charlie was wiped out by the Legion, but that goes without saying, I would hope. I also think I really do like that he's the only one in town that helped Boone locate his wife. And that makes sense because they were both potentially NCR people. But we also get the sense that Ranger Andy would be willing to do that for pretty much anybody. He just seems like a very upstanding sort of person. I don't have any problem with Ranger Andy. I gave him a 9 total. Nobark Noonan. I don't know where the Noonan came from. It's just literally part of his title in the game. So, I don't know. I'm just going to keep calling him Nobark. He's paranoid, thinks there's a chupacabra in Novac. Chupacabra. Thinks a gecko hid the treasure. He is insane, absolutely. He says the chupacabra is invisible. He thinks communist ghosts are at REPCONN for some reason. He is a self-proclaimed scientist, which is not the best scientist to be. Painfully unaware how others view him, possibly a victim of rat scorpion venom overdose. He doesn't trust normal people. Believes crazy people are more trustworthy, which just goes to show his own insanity. Although, as I've stated before, even in the video, he is deluded in his truths, even though a lot of his truths are true. He witnesses shadows abducting Carla. He witnessed the shadow going into the modal lobby. I don't know what a modal is. I will change that. And thinks that mole rat men abducted the Carla and that the shadows were just the mole rat men trying to get hair. Because, yeah, that's just his logic. Carla Boone, we never meet her because she's dead and she was abducted. No one in town liked her, pretty much. I mean, some people tried to be nice to her, but that just didn't work out because she didn't want to be in Novac. She didn't like living there. She sat in her room all day and was kind of complained. She complained constantly about everything. She was good looking, according to people. She was pregnant. We find that out through the Legion cell document. She's also dead. We know that because Boone tells us, and we have that confirmed later on in the game. Let's go on to REPCONN. Chris Haverson. He's bossy, derogatory, abrasive. He looks down on humanity even though he's a human. He thinks he's a ghoul. He has been helping the ghouls with a great journey. He respects Jason. He's a talented engineer, both egotistical and self-deprecating at the same time. He grew up in Vault 34, which we can visit in the game. Bullied in his youth and adult life, he thinks his baldness is a result of radiation, and that bald equals ugly or monstrous. He's obviously never seen Mr. Clean, I guess. He's probably neurotic. He can realize the truth of his situation. He's been with the followers for 2 years. He can consider to sabotage the rockets. That's his first thing to do. Like, oh no, I've been tricked. And then I have to get back at people. But then really he's just an outsider among outsiders. He doesn't belong anywhere to his own mind. But eventually he's like, well, fine, I won't sabotage anything. I'll help people, and then I'll just go live with peoples again. And then he goes to peoples. Then he goes to Novac afterwards after helping the followers. Jason Bright. Also, I didn't have any problem with Chris. I have no problems with him. Chris is so neurotic. He has so many problems and self-image issues with himself, and then that kind of transfers on to others. I like him as a character. He's pretty entertaining. Moving on, Jason Bright. He's a glowing one goal and seemingly lucid unusual. Seemingly lucid, that is unusual. So just that first two things, considering all we know about ghouls and bright ones from just the Fallout lore, Jason Bright shouldn't be as he is. There's no explanation for why he's able to have any semblance of being able to talk or do what he's doing. He's as a glowing one goal. I mean, I've not met one in any other game where they're capable of that level of speech and controlling people and whatnot. It's just very unlikely. He tries to be well dressed. He does not exude radiation. He's well spoken, wants to go on the great journey, uneasy about humans from Novac, refers to other ghouls as his flock. He is religious. He's a religious leader. He refers to Nightkin as demons. He has a lot of Christian terminology that he uses. He thinks the far beyond is a place of salvation, is healing. He cares for the feral ghouls. He thinks the creator is guiding the humans to help his flock. He asks the courier to get rid of the demons and also to kind of keep helping with the other parts of the project. He is appreciative. He is a self-proclaimed prophet. His last name was supposedly always Bright. We don't know that for sure, and we never are able to verify that. He thinks humans are violent bigots. He wants to lead other ghouls from the wasteland. He has seen visions of the far beyond in other events and tried to tell Chris repeatedly that he was human. He hopes the courier is going to help them make the great journey, allowed Chris to help, keeping him ignorant of his humanity, which I'll talk about later. He believes the courier and Chris are redeeming humanity's sins, does not intend to take Chris on the great journey, and was to declare Chris the saint of the great journey. A few more people. Yes. Davison, Harlan, and Old Lady Gibson. Davison is a Nightkin. He talks to a cow skull named Antler. He does not know the difference between horns and antlers. Bordering on violent, he has a poor grasp of language. He is devoted to Antler. He was once a captain, but I'm not sure of what, and he's not sure either. He's leader of these Nightkin. He's lost and unorganized without the Master, which is from the first Fallout game. Painfully unaware of self, he is seeking stealth boys. He's being thwarted by one ghoul in the basement. Willing to leave once he gets the stealth boys, maybe smarter than Antler, but has less willpower than Antler. Harland. That's the ghoul that's trapped down below. He is not squishy. He is tough. He is a crack shot. He doesn't think highly of Jason. He's stubborn and strategic. He tried to save others during the Nightkin attack, which shows his character. Has exceptional survival skills. He's not really part of Jason's followers. He joined to not be lonely. He likes his ghoulettes. He wants to help his friend who disappeared. He thinks the courier is more resourceful than himself, and he is sad at his friend's passing. Last is Old Lady Gibson. At least that was in Novac. She's friendly. She owns Gibson's scrapyard. Surprise, surprise. She is a widow. She scavenged in her youth, knows the general history of Helios 1. She's sarcastic and likes that she lived so long. Looking at our two companions, well, actually, there's three companions I want to look at. I'm going to start with Raul, or continue on with Raul, rather. He does go as his full name in this section of the video, Raul Alfonso Tejada. More things that we know about him. He used to be a gunslinger. He grew up near Mexico City, from Hidalgo Ranch specifically. He was a troublemaker in his youth. He lost his whole family besides his sister, Rafaela, due to an arson at his family ranch. He valued saving his sister over revenge. He feels a need to confess or share his story. He's old even for a ghoul. And we know that just by some of the things that he says. Like he complains about his knees and whatnot. He empathizes with elderly humans. He's incredibly close to the truth about House, as we will come to see. He is sarcastic. He was around to see the birth of the NCR and does not mind that faction. He also has a little problem with Caesar's Legion, which honestly surprised me a little bit, but he does give good reasons as far as to why. I mean, as far, old as he is, he's been around to see the rise of all these different factions, really. I don't really have any problem with it so far. He sees New Vegas for what it is, and I think that's again just due to his longevity. He just has a clearer picture in mind of what different things are. He's able to see through the bullshit and what have you. As far as like why I don't really have a problem with him not disliking Caesar's Legion. Is like, yes, they're not a good faction. They do bad things, very bad things, as we've already seen in even my last video. Um, but he also points out that they were the only ones that really brought order to an extremely unstable region. So for all they're bad, they are very effective. I will say that much. And maybe he will change his mind at some point. We'll see what Raul thinks as our gameplay progresses. Um, Eddie, I should have put this in bold. I don't know why I did. Maybe I did at some point. I don't know. But basically, Eddie, he can play recordings. He's considered I-bot Duraframe Subject E. Last of its model was sent to Navarro Outpost and was constructed by the Enclave. These are all things I already kind of covered in the video. I'm not going to elaborate it too much because we're just now learning more things about Eddie and his background for this once, besides basically what he does and what he can do without saying anything. Boone, Craig Boone is his full name. He's the nighttime sniper in Novac. He always wears sunglasses. There is a lot to do with Boone, as we will see. He has as little spoken as he is, he has quite a long list of things. And we actually understand his background probably a lot more than Raul so far, because Raul is kind of dragged out, depending on whom we have with us and whom we're talking to in the Mojave. Whereas Boone is more so just, he is very much so upfront with a lot of the things that we know about him. He wears a red beret. He was a former friend of Manny Vargas. He moved to Novac with Manny and his wife. NCR veteran. His wife disappeared. He hates Caesar's Legion with a passion, as he repeatedly states. He is short-spoken, not easily distracted. Wants to use the courier to help him. Knows the Legion slavers took his wife Carla. Believes someone in town set up the abduction. Says his wife is dead, and just leaves it at that. He does not want to elaborate anymore on it. He wants vengeance. He's willing to shed blood himself. Was happy being with Carla, and we learned that from Ranger Andy, I believe. He took care of Carla and did most of the tasks. He had been an expecting father, as we learn. He murders Jeannie Mae Crawford. He can really murder anyone that the courier brings to the front of the dinosaur statue. But in my case, we did find the correct betrayer in Novac, so he murders her. He's cold-hearted. He already has an alibi in place for the murder. He doesn't plan to stay in Novac. He wants to hunt legionaries. He believes his time with the courier won't end well. He is unwilling to talk about what became of Carla. We don't get all the details of that. He was with the first recon sniper team, which we'll meet later. Was stationed at Camp Golf, which we'll see later. He has a good opinion of Colonel Shu, which is the commanding officer at Camp McCarran. Recognizes the importance of Hoover Dam. Thinks the Mojave needs civilizing. Unsure if the NCR can civilize it, but also still supports the NCR. Yeah, that's basically Boone. We'll talk more about him later. I'm not really in the mood for evaluating him quite yet, because there's a lot more to learn about Boone for sure. Last, what I want to look at are the factions. NCR, we learned a few things about them. They use rangers to man their outposts, which is a little weird to me. I don't want to evaluate any of these yet, but I just feel like that using these highly trained operatives for manning outposts and not really doing a ton of reconnaissance, it's a little weird. The Rangers help those who help them. We see that with the NCR emergency radio that were given by the Ranger. They control Helios 1 currently, and they are enemies with the Brotherhood of Steel. Caesar's Legion. They brought order to Arizona. We learned that from Raul, and they keep records of slave purchases. We learned that through the slave purchase form that Jeannie May has. The Great Khans. We learned that they do not trust Benny, yet they're still working with him. Um, Moving on along, Brotherhood of Steel. We learned a little bit more about them. They once controlled Helios 1, but not anymore. That's the power plant that's just north of um, Novac. Yes. And then they're enemies with the NCR currently as well. And then there's the Enclave, which we only hear about through the recording that Eddie gives us. They built Eddie. They had an outpost in Navarro. They had an outpost in Chicago. They controlled Adams Air Force Base, which if you've played Fallout 3 and its DLCs, then you know that to be the case, and that they were defeated there in the Capital Wasteland. They built up the Eyebot line of robots, which we do see in Fallout 3 as well. They ended the Eyebot line in favor of Hellfire armor. Whether they continue to do that over time, I'm not really sure, because we also see that the Eyebots do exist in Fallout 4 as well, which takes place in a set after the events of Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. So where these other Eyebots are coming from, if they're just repurposed or whatnot, I really don't know. I'm not trying to analyze that game. I'm just saying that based on what we know from the context here, is that the Eyebot line was discontinued because of their focus on creating Hellfire armor for their soldiers. In this video, I feel the high points of the narrative so far lie in the characterization of the people of Novac, and especially two of our companions, Raul and Boone. The juxtaposition of both characters' views and actions relating to revenge reflect and expand on the protagonist's own quest for vengeance. Despite how talkative he is, Raul is enigmatic simply due to his unknown and lengthy past. His background will continue to be expanded as the courier travels the waste with him. However, after our first major discussion with Raul involving Ranger Andy, we can see the start of a topic revolving around the purpose of the elderly in society, as well as what an aged warrior can do past his prime. I do appreciate these seldomly explored topics, as they force the viewer to ultimately confront their own mortality through the character of Raul. Boone's background is a bit more forthcoming, and we have a decent idea of what Boone has done with his life prior to the courier meeting him. I also enjoy that we join Boone at the end of his quest for vengeance, while the courier is still on his path of revenge against the men who left him for dead. In Boone, the courier has the opportunity to see the aftermath of revenge and the ultimate reckoning that carrying out one's vengeance will lead to. While we still have more of Boone's story to explore, we also can see that the murder of Jeannie May does not bring Boone any peace or achievement, something the courier may bear in mind before he confronts Benny and the Great Khans. The main quest of this video, Come Fly With Me, focuses on the Bright followers and their quest to reach the far beyond. The concept of Jason Bright and his followers is unique, but also calls back to Christian evangelicalism. Fallout is no stranger to showing new religious worship in the apocalypse, and New Vegas is no exception to this trend. As a character, Jason Bright has a metric ton of characterization in a very short amount of gameplay. A self-stylized prophet, Jason's claims and affirmations ring with platitudes and phrases common to Christian diction, yet the ghoul also remains elusive in his background. We only know his goals and spoken motivations. Something I have not discussed so far are his followers, the brown-robed ghouls we see in-game. They seem utterly devoted to Jason's mission, and he refers to them numerous times as his flock. We know they are capable of self-defense, since many of them survived the initial Nightkin attack, though at great cost. We see them perform tasks and follow his directions without question. In the game, we also can encounter his followers in various locations in the Mojave. So far, the courier has found one Bright follower in Good Springs Cave, one beneath an underpass near Sloan, and one under a billboard just north of Wolfhorn Ranch. These locations are widely dispersed across the map, although we have no indication as to why the Bright followers ventured so far from REPCONN. We know from Chris Haversom that the group has resided at the rocket facility for at least 2 years, and I can only speculate as to why some of Jason's flock left REPCONN armed with weapons. Despite how forthcoming Jason Bright is with his traits and wants, I'm having a difficult time pinning down his exact motivations. Sure, we understand he wants to reach the far beyond with his flock, The far beyond is supposed to be a haven for ghouls like them. The concept of a safe and blissful destination is typical for religions that purport life after death for devout followers of the faith. However, from what we know of Fallout lore, Bright One ghouls are feral, their minds long gone. Jason does not behave like a typical Bright One, and we have no explanation as to why he is capable of holding onto his sanity. He is an outlier even among ghouls. I personally am not certain Jason is as sane as he appears to be, and he falls into the category of characters whose whims we cannot possibly determine. If the visions Jason claims to see are truly visions, or rather the warped machinations of his heavily irradiated brain, no one can say. He genuinely seems to want a better future for his ghoul followers, and his words are typically pleasant and direct. The only one at REPCONN that speaks ill of Jason is Harland, the ghoul trapped by Nightkin in the basement. Though Harlan claims to have joined the group of ghouls for companionship, he does state he doesn't buy into Jason Bright's religious pandering. What worries me about Jason is his self-proclaimed status as a prophet. Regardless of whether what Jason sees and wants is true or not, Jason is a leader that holds the total devotion of the vast majority of his flock. So much so that some members ventured armed and alone into the Mojave for unknown purposes. Jason reminds me too much of the cult leaders of American history. He is undoubtedly charismatic, having led his followers over the past 2 years at REPCONN. In fact, the nearby humans at Novac seem unaware of the Bright followers' presence, despite their proximity, which shows how effectively Jason has been able to keep his flock confined to the REPCONN facility. It was only after the Nightkin attack that some of the feral ghouls recently escaped, alerting Novac to the ghoul presence to their west. It's also worrisome that Jason allows Chris Haversam to operate and assist with the Followers Project, despite knowing he is not a ghoul. Jason does tell the courier his group attempted to convince Chris he was human, but Chris rejected their words. However, we do not hear the same story from Chris, only from Jason. While Chris has been treated well by the ghouls during the past 2 years, it is also worth mentioning that Chris's technical expertise made him valuable to Jason. To conclude this discussion on Jason, I want to elaborate on why I had my courier assist the Bright followers if I myself had such reservations about Jason's potential motivations. First, I am not the courier, and I am trying not to play him based on my own preferences, but rather want information we know about the Bright followers and the courier himself. Second, recall why the courier was sent to REPCONN in the first place. Manny Vargas was initially unwilling to give Gabe the whereabouts of Benny and the Great Khans unless the courier helped him in the ghoul threat. While this reasoning is sufficient motivation, my courier was able to get Manny's information without first having to end the ghoul problem, meaning that initial motivation is void. Therefore, let us consider the state Novac finds itself in. Guarded by only 2 snipers, the town is under assault by feral ghouls coming from the REPCONN road in the west, while an insane, invisible Nightkin kills the town's Brahmin from the same side. In the east, raiders and Caesar's Legion make attempts to cross the bridge and enter the town. The road south has an NCR Ranger outpost, though this location is quickly destroyed by the Legion in the events of this video. To the north is the Helios 1 solar power facility. While controlled by the NCR, it is not a major fortification, and Novac is not under NCR protection. In short, Novac has a host of enemies prowling its borders on a constant basis. While not as bad off as Prim, it certainly does not have a town militia like Goodsprings, with only Manny and Boone keeping watch. Without assistance and relief, Novac is simply living on borrowed time. And when Boone murders Jeannie May and leaves with the courier, Manny becomes the town's only defender, which would, of course, effectively doom Novac. We can see that the courier may be willing to keep assisting Manny merely to help the town survive, despite doing so bringing him no closer to his personal goal. For assisting Boone, the courier might also feel responsible for leaving the town nearly defenseless, and removing the ghoul threat is his way of helping. Considering the lessons of the wasteland the courier has already learned during his time in Goodsprings and Prim, Gabe should understand that helping others can ultimately make him and his allies stronger. Furthermore, the courier's time in Nipton makes him aware of what Novac's fate could be should the Legion conquer the town. While I hope I have somewhat explained why the courier would assist Novac, I also want to address why he would help the Bright followers attain their goal, as well as the Nightkin in their hunt for stealth boys. While assisting the hostile Nightkin is not entirely necessary, since they are violent and most attack the courier on sight, Keep in mind that my courier has already had experiences with super mutants at Black Mountain. One of the super mutants there, Neil, warns us of the danger at the mountain and is willing to assist in bringing down the insane Tabitha. Even so, the courier could have slain Tabitha and ended the super mutant threat on Black Mountain, but I chose for my courier to take a peaceful route by reuniting Tabitha with her robot Rhonda, who quickly reins in the former overlord of Black Mountain. As a wandering messenger, the courier likely has had experiences with super mutants and ghouls before, since he never is able to question what these beings are. We also know the courier does not start out as a proficient fighter, meaning he has likely relied on subterfuge and stealth when coming across super mutants in the past. While many super mutants are violent and hostile, it is not true to say they all are. Our courier should have an understanding in that. In dealing with super mutants, expect the unexpected and be willing to pursue other courses of action other than violence. In the case of Black Mountain and REPCONN, it is a Nightkin specifically who is calling the shots behind the troubles at both locations. Nightkin are well known to be mentally unstable, though this trait does not always equate to being physically violent and uncontrollable. My courier pacified Tabitha by reuniting her with Rhonda within seconds. Similarly, simply finding out that the Stealth Boys were not at REPCONN is enough to convince the Nightkin leader, Davison. I argue that choosing an indirect method of ending the Nightkin threats is more in character for the courier than killing them. Now, as to why the courier would choose to help the Bright Followers. We can reasonably assume a well-traveled messenger would have encountered ghouls before, and understand that not all ghouls are feral or dangerous. Again, the courier never has to ask what a ghoul is, which leads me to believe he has encountered them before. While many ghouls are spread throughout the wasteland and actively intermingle with human settlements and society, Jason's flock is insular and does not have a high view of humans due to their mistreatment of ghouls in the past and present. This bigotry against ghouls expands to other Fallout games, though this is the first instance of anti-ghoul prejudice we have encountered in New Vegas. How the courier feels about ghouls is left up to the player, of course, but considering Gabe's line of work, I do not imagine he had the luxury of making many enemies in his past. Considering ghoul communities can be tight-knit, getting on their bad side would likely have been a poor decision for a courier not well versed in self-defense, as Gabe is at the beginning of the game. What interactions he had with ghouls in the past are unknown, but considering Gabe is an adult who has survived in the wasteland for years, he likely has had a variety of exchanges with them. Unless they are feral, ghouls typically have the same reasoning capacity of humans, though they are often more experienced due to their extended lifespans. Gabe is unlikely to treat non-aggressive ghouls in a negative way, since he would see them as on par with most humans. Though we don't know the full extent of Jason Bright's intentions, nothing he suggests brings a danger to Novac, although the courier may put himself in personal danger to assist the Bright Followers. While Gabe could easily end the ghoul threat to Novac by killing all the feral ghouls at REPCONN, Jason views his feral kin as family and would prefer they be spared. However, in order to spare the feral ghouls and also keep them away from Novac, the only option left is to get the ghouls aboard the rockets and set them on their way. With this reasoning, I find it easier to see why the courier would assist the Bright Followers. Much like in dealing with super mutants, the courier would also be willing to explore non-violent paths due to his background. And while the courier could easily sabotage the rockets, end the ghoul threat permanently, he should also understand that the rockets are highly radioactive. Should they crash or explode, the fallout could easily impact Novac and the rest of the region. And the courier would have no reason to want to do so, since nuclear fallout would affect him as much as anyone else. I hope I have done an adequate job explaining why the courier chooses to assist Novac, the Bright Followers, and Davison's Nightkin. If you disagree or have thoughts of other possible motivations, let me know in the comments. Lastly, I want to touch on the few weaker narrative threads in this video. They are admittedly minor and do not relate to the main questline, being entirely contained to the Come Fly With Me mission for the most part. I have already addressed how to fix the issue with Jason's key to the basement, as well as how the courier knows where to find the igniting agent for the rockets. How the courier knows to go to the launch deck, or where the launch deck is an oversight that could be fixed with a few lines of dialogue from an NPC. The only other issue of note was how the Legion knew the courier killed a Legionnaire, despite him being the only survivor or witness, but this occurrence was more a result of gameplay mechanics rather than a narrative decision. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Game Decon. If you did, please leave a like as it helps the channel. If you would like to see more Fallout content and the continuation of this series, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Next time, Gabe the Courier will explore the nearby Helios 1 power plant before arriving at Boulder City to confront his attackers. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.